And for
Progress.
is to ask everybody to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Christie, could you call the roll, please?
Last one,
Here.
Bobby Cassidy,
Present.
Patrick McCall,
Happy to be here, present.
Andrea Sampson,
Here.
Jim Thompson.
Here.
And we have no audience today, which is unusual. And needless to say, we have some new members with us today. So probably what would be good is if we all introduce ourselves. We probably know 95% of the people in the room, but just in case, we'll start with Christie. You thought I was gonna say you, right, Jim? But we'll start with Christie, then go to Jim,
That's
work
good.
our way around the table.
I'm Christy Coleman. I am the board liaison and the chief's assistant. Thank you.
Jim Thompson, city manager and board director.
Andrea Sampson, 6 year Loveland City Council veteran and Mayor Pro Tem, and now Director as well. Thank you.
Paul Pikowski, Rural District Director.
I'm Andrea Wright, HR Manager with Loveland Fire.
Greg Word, Assistant Chief. Simplified Fire Chief.
And Smith, other assistant chief.
Another Andrea Smith, I'm the finance manager for LFRA.
And I'm Jeff Swanning, part of the rural and chairperson for the fire authority.
Pat McFall, former city councilor, now the current mayor of Loveland and fire board of directors.
Fire Marshal, would you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, I think everybody knows me. I'm Carrie Dan, fire marshal for the next 11 and a half weeks. I don't know, whatever it is. So welcome, new folks. Thanks for being here. We really appreciate all your time and expertise on this. So thank you.
Thanks for being here, Chief Dan.
You're welcome, sir.
We don't normally introduce everybody in the audience, but you feel like you're part of us. Okay, Chief, approval or amendments of the agenda?
One more turn, it's why we have Emily.
Oh, okay. Hi, Emily.
Hey everyone. Hello. I'm Emily Powell. I'm Authority Legal Counsel. Usually I attend the meetings in person. We're being perhaps overly cautious in light of the wind event, but we weren't sure what was going to happen on I-25 today. So I'm attending remotely.
Good decision.
It's getting gusty down here for sure. We're getting some big gusts, so I don't know how things are up north, but it'll be interesting to see how it develops over the next few hours.
A lot of hot wind down there in Denver.
Boy, you aren't wrong about that, Jeff.
That's an open window.
Okay, Chief, approval or amendments of the agenda?
No changes to the agenda.
Okay, that will take us to awards and presentations.
Yes, and I actually misguided you yesterday. I went off of city manager's chat. Robert Carmesino actually nominated two members for Rising Star Awards. I thought Robert was a recipient of it. He's actually the one that nominated him, so no awards.
Oh, I'm confusing that with another award. Was there an award that Chief Carmesino got, Paul, that you're aware of?
That was during the Alexander fire.
Oh, okay.
By,
So that was a congressional
right.
to the Emergency Management Office.
He,
Office, which mirrored what the organization got as well.
A lot of award-winning people here. Thank you. Okay, before we go into public comment, I have a question. Are we going to swear in our new members or did something already take place?
No, we did that the night that they became board members.
No.
Part of the board.
We've always done it here in the past.
We can do that ceremonially.
No, that's fine. I just want, because Andrea did tell me that and I was surprised when she told me that because it's always been custom to do it at the board meetings.
We needed to do it so we could file the paperwork with the county.
Okay.
There was a new law passed about 2 years ago that now says that those oaths have to be on file with the clerk and recorder before the individual can be seated and take action. So it's no longer super practical to do it at the meetings because we'd have to then pause the meetings to file it or else they can't participate.
Okay. Well, clear as mud. Thank you.
That's part of that infinite wisdom you were talking about down here in Denver, Jeff.
Yeah, yeah. On what you were sworn into.
No, you're good.
I love taking the oath. I'll do it again.
Oh, you're good, you're good. Okay, that takes us to our consent agenda. I believe the only thing we have on there is the minutes. Any questions, comments on it? If not, I'll take a motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Okay, we have welcome and orientation of new board members, Chief. I believe you're gonna take over from here on that.
Yeah, actually thought that PowerPoints were gonna be in a different order, so give me 1 second to switch over. Director Sampson and McFall, please, some of this you have heard, but I think it's very important. First of all, I too, on behalf of the LFRA, want to welcome you, and I so appreciate your interest and enthusiasm of being on the LFRA board. Just a word of caution, I did ask the chairman and Director Thompson to both remind you that there isn't an alternate on this board. We need both of you present because it is a whole board with your presence. So what I wanted to do is just, yes,
Just for my own edification on this one, is presence allowed remotely?
Yes.
turn over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've had people call in and like Emily, done a video conference, so whatever works for you. We prefer to have you here so we can get a bear hug and shake your hand, but whatever works.
Did you say beer and hug?
Beer and a hug. whatever works.
If you are gonna remote, just send me an email and I'll send you a panelist.
Yeah, I'll normally make it, but just because of what I do, sometimes it does take me out of town.
So with that in mind, that's one of the reasons we changed the reconfiguration of the room to try to capture the room more appropriately with the owl, and the positioning of who's most prominently going to be speaking. So hopefully that helps for those that are remote and helps the overall message that's being delivered. So I wanted to take this opportunity and just do a brief orientation. There are some things that as counselors you have seen over the course of your 6 years on council. We've delivered a number of these things, but I also want to kind of bring you up to speed because we're entering the new year and we've got some challenges and some opportunities in front of us. The other thing is to really bring you into the context of what the LFRA is, because I have this, the most asked question is, are you the city fire department? And I know that seems strange, but the reality is we get asked that quite a bit. So we really want to put that into context and show you what we've been up to in the recent months. So with that, one of the things, and we'll dive into this at another time, I don't want to bog the meeting down or anything, but I do think it's important, and Chief Ward is the one that really heads this up for us, but you see this on all our apparatus, you see it on our patch, it means something to us. These values are incredibly important. They're what we live by day to day. The 3 C's, commitment, compassion, and courage. That's how we make our decisions and that's how we treat our customers. The vision of the organization, I can't take credit for this. These are the 2 previous fire chiefs came up with good to great. That was Randy Borowski, and enduring greatness was Mark Miller. And I think that is great that we retain that as kind of the historical foundation that they created for the organization. Kind of what I wanted to bring to the table was build upon the foundations of success. This organization has been incredibly successful. And I think as the chief coming in, I want to build upon it as opposed to reconstruct it. There is no need organizationally to reconstruct this organization. It's a very sound foundation, but we need to build upon that foundation to sustain the service that's being asked from our constituents. Our mission, you'll see now, we used to represent 4 R's down at the bottom: response, readiness, resources, relationships, and we added resiliency. As I came in as the fire chief in 2021, this was kind of the charge. Create that organizational and personnel resiliency. So that's their physical and mental health, as far as our personnel, life and career longevity, and then financial stability is the resiliency of the organization. And then the non-negotiables, couple the 3 C's to 5 R's with customer service, seek continual improvement, and always be other-centered. So obviously outwardly focused on the community and the customers that we serve. So where do you fit into this picture as new board members? This is one that I've just changed out recently. I actually had just silhouettes because we didn't know who you were. We didn't know who was gonna be representative on our board. So I've inserted your 2 pictures. And again, we want to welcome you. I do want to call to attention, you are a director, you are not a city councilor here, and I know you serve on many other boards, but I don't answer to Jim as the city manager, I answer to Jim as a director, I answer to the chairman as the chairman, and I'll do the same to you. This organization formed in 2012 through a formal IGA. As you stated, it's an IGA with the Loveland Rural Fire Protection District, which is represented by Director Bukowski and Chairman Swanty. Just looking at the organization, I'm sorry, I know most of us in the room are over 50, so it's kind of hard to see, and I apologize. It's not meant to be an eye test, but this is the organization. You see yourself at the top there in red. That's the Loveland Fire Rescue Authority Board. I look at that as you are the 5 bosses that I report to. I report out to the Loveland Rural Fire Protection District, and I report out to the Loveland City Council. The organizational makeup, as you met, Assistant Chief Ward oversees risk reduction and readiness, which is anything prevention oriented, or our readiness for response, which is the training component, and our logistics staff. On the other side, human resources, Andrea Wright, and you've already figured out, we go by Andrea and Tim very frequently around here. But Andrea Wright oversees our HR. She has 2 staff members that support her in that. In the center there is the finance manager, which is our other Andrea Smith, who oversees our accounting technician, which is Kim Downing. We also have health and wellness services listed in there. Those are contractual services and a shared services position that we have. So our health and services, we have a contract with Frontline Mobile Health. Mike Connor is our point of contact there. And Dr. Teresa Richards in the shared services position that we share with LPD. Chief Smith runs the emergency operations side of the house, which obviously are the red trucks going down the road. And then you see his staff there that works under him. So with that, I've used this picture for the past 3.5 years. We have a service area of 187 square miles. I'll call attention to, oh, there he goes. The city of Loveland is 36.5 square miles, approximate population, depending on who you ask, 80,000, okay? I know that's a moving target, that's why I jokingly say that. But this is the service area of LFRA. It's a service area of 187 square miles, population served of just over 110,000. Now that was as of August 26th, that has now changed. Our service area now looks like this. Okay, same city limits, 36.5 square miles, population 80,000, 110,000 plus, but our service area is 248 square miles. We did 4 inclusion elections, and then we did a subsequent individual inclusion election just last, I think it was last week, with Mr. Pinker. So that's 248 square miles. By comparison, Cooter Fire Authority to the north of us is 238 square miles. So quite the service area that we cover. This is one that's going to become more important because we are on our 5th year. So every 5 years, the ISO comes to rate your organization. So you look at this map, this is the newest map in accordance with our current ISO service levels. So a couple things to call to your attention. Those are the fire stations that we staff with a minimum of 3 personnel. The 3 that are highlighted in blue, those have additional staffing there. Station 2 is a 2-company station. We have a rescue there and an engine. So there are 6 people assigned to that station. Station 1, which is the station you're sitting in, has the battalion chief running out of that. So there are 4 people assigned here. Station 6 is a double company station as well. That is where we have our ladder truck and our squad. So there are 5 people that would typically run out of that station. The other 3, station 7, 3, and 5 are staffed with 3-person minimum, single company stations. Additionally, we have our newest station, which we added in 2022. And this is important. I need you to help me with this, is educate the public. We go all the way to the county line. Johnstown, we cover 1/3 of Johnstown. Front Range Fire Rescue covers the other 2/3 of Johnstown. But that goes all the way to the county line.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Absolutely.
Could you explain to me the insurance service office? What it means?
Insurance service, so they do public protection classification solely on structures. Okay, so what they'll do, that's how your insurance premium is set,
Okay,
depending on your proximity to a fire station and the overall rating of the fire station, water supply, communications supporting that. And we'll get into greater detail on this because it plays a very critical part, given all the conversations about insurance. So station 10 is behind Shields. I think that's the easiest reference. Airport station, we staff that as needed. We have typically staffed that with 1 engineer. We currently are not staffing that on a regular basis. It's as needed. That person is now assigned to staff or assigned to a station just to basically supplement our current staffing levels. The other 2 stations, you've probably passed station 8. And you certainly, when we went up to the Alexander Mountain Fire, you've seen station 9, which is at the top at the T, not at the top of Storm Mountain, but at the T. I do that jokingly because somebody thought I was literally speaking, it was on top of the mountain, so. Our funding, I think this has been talked about ad nauseum, 80% from the city, rural district, 20%, and then we have our impact fees and service fees that come into play. We have just updated those. Thank you to City Council and the Rural Board for both allowing us to adjust those fees accordingly. 2026 budget set at 27.43 million. Just to call out, I mean, this is a typical operation. 80% of that is on salaries. The other 19.65% is basically our ability for supplies, purchase services, and capital equipment costs.
Can I ask you a question on budget? When do you approve your annual budget?
So theoretically, we're supposed to go before city council. So LFRA, this board sets our budget, and then we go to the respective boards. If the rural board would have a challenge to that, then we would have to come back to this board and say, this is their position. But the budget is literally set through the LFRA board and then delivered to those respective boards and council.
So then do we have like a budget retreat where we go kind of like council does, you know, kind of down line by line-ish, department to department, and kind of break it down?
Andrew, if you're trying to gain points with me, you gain it 100%. I'd love to do that. I would
Okay.
love to literally go through every item and discuss and
That's
justify.
how, so that's not how you do it right now, but that can be done that way?
You tell me. Yeah.
Okay,
If
but we
that's
don't
the
do
way
it
you
like that
want
at
it,
present.
we would love to do that.
Okay,
Oh, go ahead, So, Andrea, if I could, so are you requesting like a line item budget to go through everything?
Yeah.
Not just a summation?
well, I just assumed, I didn't know if that's something that we already
We
did that
do,
we missed out. But if not, then yeah, I think
We
that'd be
do
great.
a budget presentation, which is line item presentation, okay, but we have never collected as a retreat and basically had a robust discussion. Our discussion on budgets, and Chairman, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know what happened before I was here, but literally we do it during a meeting. And those meetings are typically a little bit longer, but we've never had a real robust retreat where we could get everybody in the room for an extended length of time.
Yeah, as a new board member, if that's something that the board would entertain and would find necessary, I'd love to know, you know, the department to that, or the authority to that depth, but Mr. Chair.
Yeah, if I could say this, I'm certainly willing to do that. It's, I'm sure the chief would like it, but probably the vast majority of what we do in here and even our rural board meetings is talk about the budget. I mean, that is a big part. And I guess I would disagree when we say we haven't had robust discussions. I feel like some of our robust discussions have been ad nauseum. They've just gone on and on and on. We say the same things over and over. But again, you're one of the board members, and if that's what you want, let's have a conversation on it. We certainly wanna, it's important to us because when I say us, the authority and the rural both, to know that the city council knows what's going on in these authority board meetings, because we often feel like what happens in here doesn't get back to city council, because you have a lot of boards.
Yeah.
You got a lot of things you're doing. Here, we do one thing, fire and rescue. That's it, right? So, yeah, we'd love to share anything you want to know.
Well, what you bring up are both good points. Have you ever heard, other than when we had some issues and we went in front of council, but did you ever get feedback from the other two representatives in the past few years at all? Or what was transpiring in the, I'm just curious.
Referral, maybe?
Yeah, I
I
think,
don't think we've ever received, I can tell you this, in the 4 years I've been on council now, I have not had an in-depth. This is what occurred at the LFRA board, this is what's going on. Part of that problem is, and it's a problem with council. It's the fact that we had so many things that were eating up our time, we never got to reports.
on our agenda.
So I can't blame it
Sure.
on the board members more so than I can blame it on the aspect of the dysfunction of city council.
Yeah.
I said that out loud. So,
I will piggyback on that if I could. I would say 80% of the times I've attended a city council meeting, we are the last thing that happens on the program.
Yep.
We've been sometimes scheduled second, third, but by the end of the night, not yourself, because you weren't here, guess what? We've been bumped to last place. Our conversations come up at 11 at night, and it's like, we're in last place, so.
last night we got the reports and I seem to remember calling it unicorn hour.
It was.
Session.
Unicorn.
Because it was strange for us to get there. I think it's good. I want to add to what, and here's where my question will be on the budget. And this is kind of how I look at it with the city budget as well. Depending on the level that we get to on a budget is a determining factor for me in a lot of instances of how far I want to go down. And the reason I say that is because there's an operational aspect of the budget that on the city side, I don't know how it is here. On the city side, that is totally the city manager's call. But I've also learned in recent, in the most recent aspect, that there are aspects that are going down at the bottom end that overall affect the city that we weren't aware of. And I think if council been aware of it, it would have been better to understand where it's at. And so I don't want, my factor on this, and this is from dealing with multi-million-dollar budgets on my own, is that I don't need to get into the full nitty-gritty unless the full nitty-gritty affects the overall aspect of how it runs. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and if I could chime in on that, and I'll refer to him as the city manager, because this is directed at the city manager. My objective is to have our budget basically to get to him. So it doesn't affect the city budget. So he knows what number we're asking for. I mean, that's part of the issue is we got to do our work on the front end so it does install the rest of the apartments. And that's where we had some hiccups this past year.
And I think, Chief, I think that's a really good point, and coming from a city point of view, just looking at it from my other hat, because I do know how to take those hats on and off. But looking at it from the other hat, there's aspects we look at and we go, okay, is there, when I look at things, is there a necessity for this right now? Or can we put this piece to the side? And again, sometimes it's like robbing Peter to pay Paul itself. So that's where, for me, I think there are some areas that maybe getting a little bit more oversight on it helps understand the budget, understands why there's a need for something going in somewhere in and of itself at that time frame, especially given the limited aspects that from the city standpoint they have right now.
100%.
Go ahead, Andrea.
Okay, thank you. I asked primarily so that I would know if we need to be approving a budget shortly. If there was maybe some historical information that we could reflect on, so we would kind of know, compare last year to this year or whatever, which she'll probably present anyway, but just so that we're prepared. I like to be able to read my packet, at night when my girls are asleep.
Paper.
Yeah, in paper. And I like to be prepared for before I come to the meeting. So that's really what I want to know. Yes, if there's a line item budget, if that's how we're doing our budgeting, if there's opportunity for, or need for further discussion, whatever's needed of us, just because I know we're kind of coming in really at a hot time right now because your budget is gonna be due soon, so making
No,
sure we're
budget's
totally
done.
caught up.
Budget's done,
Oh, budget's done.
yes, yes.
Okay, so we don't
So
need to
we're in
approve.
concert with the city.
Okay,
So,
so
yeah.
it might be good for us to review it eventually then at some point, just so we know, but it's good we don't have to approve anything.
Yeah.
Andrew, where this might be important when you're talking about before having some kind of retreat or a longer meeting to talk about all this would be good because there's things theoretically that should be happening and then there's the realistic side of what does happen. Sometimes it's the practical side, but theoretically, the way this should be working is we should be making all these decisions as a board, like full-time, part-time, how many employees and whatever. And at the same time, give the chief the flexibility to make changes in there, so we're not bogged down with important stuff to him and his staff, which sometimes frustrates the city, because the city likes to, I guess we're asked to go in there and justify what we've already decided to do as a board. Theoretically, what we'd like to think is that the city manager and the city councilors have carried this message back to finance, and carried it back to city council. These decisions are made, so we approve all these things in here, then we put the chief and his staff in the decision of defending decisions we've already made here. But I think there's some things we could do there to fine tune it that would free up their time and actually help us reach our initial goal when we developed the authority, was to do away with a lot of this second guessing and have the rural and the city jointly making decisions together, not having the city make decisions after the fact.
So
Does that make sense?
It
Makes
does,
sense.
can I just kind of throw this piece in? there?
Yeah.
So as I sat as a council liaison, which I feel that's what I am as a board of directors, I'm a liaison to my council as well. From doing this, Andrew and I both are. As a council liaison on the boards that I've done, like the golf board, when they were making decisions on the budget and everything else, I would sit in there, I would give my advice based on how council may be looking at something going in there. And then when it was said and done, what I would do is I said, I think that's good. I would take that information, go back to the councilors one at a time or a couple of times, say, hey, this is gonna come before us with the golf board. This is where it's at. I want to let you know what's happening. Do you have questions on this? Is there something that can be answered? If so, I can point them towards, Mark Soda can answer these questions, whoever, or by point them towards you, chief, or point them towards board members that can probably answer. Is that what you're looking for?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Paul?
I can do that.
And then chief, I know you work on the budget all year long, because I just know that, right? So, but the first time you really present it to the board is when? August?
No, we would be.
April, May.
Yeah.
May last year.
Okay.
I mean,
So-
it was not complete by any means.
Okay.
So if I can, Brian and his staff published that calendar, and we try to be in sync with that calendar.
I was just trying
We
to,
have
so you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah,
I know
because
what you
in
mean.
sync,
Later
meaning we're not
But yeah,
holding
we
them.
approve the whole budget for the cities, that makes sense.
The rub is, we try and do this stuff in May, but we don't know what the city has to spend. And we don't know what type of surprises might happen with the voters, COVID, whatever. So we have to stay very flexible. So what happens is chief and staff, they set a budget, and pretty much between then and the time it's approved, it's a matter of whittling away at it.
Yeah, makes sense.
Sure,
Jim,
Big
sorry,
comments over
sorry
here.
we derailed you.
Yeah.
I
I'm just
apologize.
I'd like to hear
Thank you.
Jim's comment.
Quiet,
I will,
absorbing.
I will say this, and I think the chairman will agree. We haven't had this much discussion before as far as, that side of the house. So I appreciate the questions. That's what this is for. I told the chairman I would be 15-20 minutes. I'll go through these fast, but I appreciate the conversation.
I wanted to hear from Jim real quick, if he's got any comments on this. And
Yeah, I would do it different than what we've done. So I've only been through the one process right this year. But I sit in a different place because I'm used to like seeing every single line item and ask questions on everything. And so I have to understand that I'm a board member and not the city manager overseeing a department, and that a little bit, but it does impact us tremendously. When we're paying 80% of it, that we have to be cognizant of what that looks like. So it increased. So an example, there was staff approved that, thank you, the district picked up the cost of those, not all were hired. But in 2027, the city has to pick up 80% of whatever was hired. And so that means that instantly off the bat, that's going to mean I have to cut somewhere else based on our growth patterns that we've been seeing and based on the fact that we are limited in our capacity. Some of the discussion in the past has been around a new model of revenue for the LFRA, and it's something we need to continue to discuss in the future. But we all agreed that we take a little break on it, right, and give us that breather. And so I appreciate that. But that's part of it, because you know, when you look at the map, you have Johnstown, who has a separate district tax for fire. The city does not. It's part of our all-inclusive. We get 9.6 mils. We spend more than 9.6 on the 80% here. So 100% of our property tax and some of our sales tax goes to LFRA. And so that's a different than other jurisdictions around us that have that other capacities. And so likewise for the district, everybody outside of the city and the district, 100% of their tax for the district goes to fire, and then not 100% because of the 80-20. So there's all those discussions at some point in the future we'll have to have. Now, for me, some of the challenges was like this year, we spent a lot of time talking about the ads and what to do with that. In particular, there was the salaries, there was all these different, like what I would consider add-ons, and every department every year submits to me a long list. And I would say this year, 98.9% of them were no. Because our pie is only so big. So I got to do something. I got a pie. When I know my revenue, then I got to slice it. And so how do you slice it to achieve the greatest good for the community based on what the community desires? And that's hard to do sometimes. And our demands are far greater than our pie, which we know, and we'll have those discussions at the city. So I think that's part of it here that will help us and help LFRA and help us move forward, is really talk about where should we be and how do we get there. And we've had some attempts in the past. The city's failed on its side of passing additional levies and other things to look at public safety and other things, but we got to go back and have those discussions as well. So I look forward to doing it a little bit differently this year. I look forward to having more in-depth conversations. So I appreciate that, because it helps us all understand what we need to do and what that model might look like. But I always start off, and it's hard because traditionally in government, we tend to, and departments in particular, they focus on their little area. How much money can I get to go do all the things that we want to do? And I know I can't do them all because I don't have enough to do it. I have to start in a different place. How big is my pie? And how big is the revenue I have? Do I have $10 and I have $35 in requests? How do I get to the 10 to give the biggest bang for the buck for those we serve and bring that to council? That's hard. It literally, especially here, more than I've probably experienced over my tenure, just because where we're at financially, the needs far exceed the availability. It's just fire service. You look, many departments run 4 on a truck and 2 in and 2 out, right? It's a concept. We run 3. And so we already have inherent, I wouldn't say deficiencies in service level, but exposures that eventually you would like to, look at, but we really haven't had those, that at least during the last year, those in-depth discussions, because there's been so much around so many other issues. And so again, I think it might be that time to take a step back and be really strategic and look at the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Where do we want to be and how best to get there? And then cohesively as a group, both the district and the city, coming together and sending that message out to all that we serve. So that to me would be ideal. And I have to do that on the city side because we're at that point where we're having severe challenges, at least on the capital side. So, and that only adds to you guys, because when I come in and say you can only have X, you're like, whoa, wait a minute, Tim, that doesn't even cover like day-to-day stuff. And I get that. And we did it a little different this year where I just gave a number. It said 2.5%. That's all we can give. And that hampered all our abilities because the number really isn't that. So you got to give up something not. So maybe last year we were 78 and 21%. And then because we got to have people to serve, now we're at 80-19, and that could just keep getting more influx unless we find other ways. The other part of it too is we have added some things that LFRA a year ago, 2 years ago, were set into motion, and this year like tonight or today, we're gonna talk about radios and stuff like that. Those are needed necessities, but those are huge costs that we have for ongoing. And so those are kind of things that are new, that maybe we had old radios that we weren't replacing or doing. And so that's all of a sudden a new burden on the system as well. We haven't really had in-depth discussions maybe on that, or looking at all the line items in the budget and say, what are we doing today? We shouldn't be doing. We did it,
Right.
the city, right? Libraries closed half the time. We did away with, we closed the swim beach. We didn't open park restrooms this last year. I mean, all of these things got impacted by our level of service, but we really didn't do that here. So anyhow, I can go on for a while, but I really look forward to
You're good.
having that opportunity. Yeah.
What's my 15 minutes?
I ate up
Well, that was
15
your
or 20 minutes there.
No,
so.
but I'd like to key in on one thing you said, which is very important, and it's something I think we have tried to reflect since we became an authority back in 2012. And that is a sense of community, not spotlighting Loveland, not spotlighting the rural. So if somebody asks Paul where he lives, or somebody asks me where I live in Loveland. We all use the library, we all use the same school system, we use the same gas stations. There's a real sense of community, and we've had a very, very good relationship. And what's important is that we're fair with each other, that we fulfill our fiduciary relationships to our respective citizens, and just try and do the right thing in here. And I think that's been our goal all along. Steve, we got sidetracked.
See what you caught.
But a good conversation.
Yeah.
Andrea, it's your fault.
Geez, my first meeting, I'm
No,
sorry.
don't apologize. I
That's what
appreciate it.
happened.
So I'll speed up. So how do we rate? This is one of the things that is a bragging point, and I think it's important that our members be acknowledged. We are fully accredited from the Center of Public Safety Excellence. We are actually, that number is a little bit low now. It's I think it's 315 accredited fire departments of the 32,000 in the United States. This, in essence, puts us in the top 2%, not in the United States, but in the world, because it's a international accreditation. From the ISO perspective, we, of the 100, if you look at those 311, 119 are an ISO 1, 89 are an ISO 2, 19 are an ISO 3, and 2 are an ISO 4. We are an oddity in the fact that our topography, our population, and our general layout of our service area, we have a split rating. So within the city, we are a rating of a 2. So they get the best insurance premiums. You want it to be like a golf score, not my golf score, probably Pat's golf score. You want it low if you can get it. In the rural district,
You ever seen me play golf?
you don't need to see me. In the rural district, within the confines of 5 miles of a fire station, you're at a rating of a 3. Outside of that, anything greater than 5 miles is a rating 10. So I highlight that because that is going to become a big issue of conversation in the future in regards to station locations and so forth. We have used these 3 documents, and I will say 2 of the 3 are outdated. So the Raftillis report, which has been a controversial document, and I'm not going to shield anybody from that conversation, we know that. That was a financial analysis that was conducted in 2023. That's where the 80-20 came about. It was previously 1882. The center document, which I think organizationally we take great pride in, this is the strategic plan that we put together in 2023 in concert with the Raftillis report. And the drive of that document was, it was a steering document. You could turn to that document and see where you could be in 5 years organizationally. And what we did specifically for this is we created a financial plan within that document. Today, that document is outdated because we don't have that same financial plan. The third document is a scientific document that I take incredible pride in because this has steered us very well in our wildland side. This was conducted by the Ember Alliance, a third party, and it's based on topography, fuel loads, season or fuel moisture content, and so forth. And it literally identifies the high-risk areas of our service area. So this is our document that guides us from a wildfire protection perspective. So a couple of things of major projects. Both of you have been to this facility. I very happily took you on a tour of this facility. I call this out because this is a joint venture that we have on the horizon with the city. Chris Carlson is working on the city side to, I call it rerouting the Big Thompson from a flood control perspective. The picture you see here is every building depicted within this photo is in the floodway currently. So there are restrictions on what we can do at this facility based on the federal government's restrictions. So we can only do minor modifications to this. This is the project that is underway. Chris Carlson, again, is leading that. You see the training center down there on the lower left. The red portion is something that we did in exchange with the city. That red portion, because part of the training center will be cut out during that rerouting process, we will take over that red portion to extend our training center. So what they took away, we kind of got in return. Those are 2 occupied houses at this time that the city holds the lease on. But the vision is, and this is a dated vision, this has been refined over the course of time, but this is what we're trying to direct ourselves towards. So this is the master plan of the training center. Now, you look at that, we can't do a good majority of this until that rerouting of the Big Thompson takes place, but we don't want to wait. We want to get prepared for that, start basically putting our capital funds in a savings to be able to invest in this.
Well, Chief, quick question. So the prior photo, the aerial photo, you said those buildings are going to be they're in the current floodplain after it's rerouted. What change will there be?
Yep.
It's hard to compare.
Yeah, no. Fair question. So you say floodplain and floodway, they're confusing. Floodway is the broader, okay? So that's, I think that's the 100-year flood. And then floodplain is a little tighter. Jim, am I right on that? One way or the other. One's bigger than the other. We're in the worst case scenario. So to your point, okay, so if you look at this, the training center, okay, is down here. When it is rerouted, okay, this will be the floodway, that yellow portion. Okay. So all of the training center will be out of that. So that's the property we're giving up is this corner. Can you see that mouse?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're not, so basically you're trying to get everything out into what maybe the 100-year
100 or 5, I think it's the
500.
Yeah, I think it's 500.
Plan itself, and anything in the way, so to speak, area, that's something that's standard, heavy rains, everything else could cause those floods.
Correct.
Okay.
So Director Bukowski, to your point, so if you look at the tower on the right,
Right.
so the northeast corner of that, basically is where that line is going to be cut.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it will be right on the edge. We'll lose that northeast corner of the training center and gain that treed area towards Fairgrounds Park.
I hate to get in the weeds on this, Chief, but will we be able to keep the tower?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
But it'll be graded up towards it.
Got it.
Okay.
Will we be able to burn the 2 buildings that the city has right now? 'Cause I wanna
We
come to
need
burn.
those buildings. You talking about those? Yeah.
No, the ones that were on the other.
Oh, yeah, there's a chance, but I suspect there might be some environmental issues.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm only-
Although Chief Smith's eyes kind of.
Yeah, but no, I mean, it's gonna be a challenge for us. We have two occupants there. They are on notice that their lease won't be renewed. So, it's some of that public outreach that we are not running people out of their houses. This is a natural process that we had planned for a number of years, so.
Thanks, Chief.
To that, so looking at that master plan, and again, this will continue to evolve. I'm sharing what we've shared with the board to date. And Chief Ward has been working on that. So you ask, well, you can't do anything. We just seen you put this building in. Well, thanks to the rural board for supporting us on this. This was one of 2 islands that basically, surprisingly, this is on the high ground. So we were able to develop this. So this is our new burn building. And you'll notice that there are 2 logos up there. And I did that intentionally because not only is this serving LFRA, it's also serving the Front Range Fire Consortium. So I share that because we are part of and actually host the Front Range Fire Consortium. This was previously hosted out of Poudre Fire Authority for 20+ years. It's been in existence since 1998. We took it over in 2022 We are in partnership with 10 other agencies, so this becomes a shared cost in our training endeavors, but more importantly, by training together, we create consistency in our training efforts. And Chief Class has been running as the training chief for the consortium, so he's our training chief, but he's been serving as the training chief for the consortium as well. And he just delivered his after action for the most recent academy, the 2025-2 academy. We run 2 a year. He reported the financials. So traditionally, we had paid $14,000 per recruit. Now, when you do lease back, it got down to about $6,000 per recruit is what we paid. By us taking it over, reconfiguring it, this most recent class, we paid the least amount of any agency represented there at $2,000. And that's basically our reconfiguration. I give kudos to Chief Class and the staff. We have massaged this at a great pains to reduce those costs over the course of time. But we have hosted it since 2022.
Is that building built out of shipping containers?
It's interesting you were able to pick up on that. Yes, they are shipping containers. Now, I don't mean to joke about it. That's intentional because
Right.
we have a concrete facility that served us 25+ years. Fantastic facility, retains heat, does great, but concrete doesn't appreciate heat, it spalls. When you start to deteriorate that building, it's very expensive to restore it. In this case, if we would basically burn out one of the modules, we could literally, it's engineered to basically take one out and put a new one in.
And that's kind of what I picked up. I'm a puzzle type guy anyway, so.
Yeah. What's the wooden stick game? Jenga or jump?
Jenga.
Yeah, so that's basically what it could be.
Chief, if I may. I think on the presentation, when it comes to like the monetary considerations, we also have to look at the cost of the facility and maintenance of the facility. So sometimes we run into that at council, we're trying to do a better job of that as well. We had something that council said to go forward with a few years ago, and they thought it was one number and it's something substantially higher when I add all the extra costs, which are in, and so that we weren't fully abreast of. So when they find out, oh yeah, you had to run electrical there, oh yeah, you had that overhead cost, how come that wasn't included in your cost when you told us that it was only going to cost us X to do this, or we go from 11,000 to 2,000 or whatever per recruit, that difference of 9,000 per recruit, it may be 18,000 a recruit to have the training center. There's value in having the training center because then you could train immediately and all the conditions you have, and then you have the supervisory, and then you do assign staff there eventually, and you all the other good things that go with. But for me, I like knowing the all-inclusive because if you don't, then we're questioning that at some point in the future and say, well, where'd that number come from in the budget? Well, that's part of the training center. What do you mean? You said it wasn't gonna. So to catch us from doing that, because I have a couple of those at the city that I'm like, uh-oh, now I gotta go back and say, 3 years ago when you were told this, it's really that. And that's the reality of it. So just for what it's worth.
No, and I appreciate that. Just full transparency, we are very much in tune to the maintenance and upkeep of this facility and the need for that. In fact, the strategic plan reflects $1 million upkeep of the entire complex. So that was built in and forecasted cost.
Annually.
And annually. So to that, we also, we've actually have a IGA in place with Berthoud. So when they use it, there's a cost for them to use it. Front Range Fire Consortium has a cost to use our facility. So we built that into it. We now have Wellington inquiring. They've used it 3 days already this year. They want to do it more. There's a cost for them to do it. Longmont has now reached out to us and expressed interest. And we have a fee structure built in to make sure our facility that you have graciously allowed us to build is maintained at the highest level.
Chief, maybe tell them a little bit about how you can change the configuration too and why that's important.
The configuration of the building,
Yeah.
It's got interior, there's walls that can be moved and changed, and so we can change the access points. They can get into a hallway and one burn, they go straight down the hallway and to the left, and the next time they come in, there is no hallway. And you got to go across the hallway to another room and through another door to get to the same place they went the last time. And there's breaches wall breach areas where we can put sheetrock in and they have to breach through a wall if they were practicing firefighter emergency procedures and things. So lot of different configurations with it. Our concrete burn building is designed for residential fires. This one is designed off of the apartment buildings, multifamily units that we have in our district.
That's great.
And the nice thing to be able to change this up, and the troops were saying that some of our more senior folks, they knew that concrete building like the back of their hand. We couldn't surprise them. Here, they can drop breadcrumbs. all
That
day
was the
long.
part, that was the part I was going at, and then Chief, I think you made a good point. It's like a shoot house. If you keep a shoot house the way it is, you get the muscle memory built into it, but if you continue to change it, it causes you to think.
100%.
Yeah.
And the ingenuity of the committee that Chief Ward had put together, that back side there is a clean side. So we're very cognizant of what we expose our folks to. Inevitably, they're gonna be exposed to some sort of products of combustion in training as well as a response, but the backside of this building is clean. So as a recruit, as they're learning those initial skills and developing muscle memory, they're doing it in a clean, sterile as it can be, because we don't burn in that section. Then they transition to a more advanced stage, which is what you see in front of you.
So I don't wanna keep us too long on this, because I know we have a lot to do, but I have one last question if I could, Mr. Chair. You were referring to the costs that you charge our neighbors to use the facility. Is there a possibility for that to actually become revenue generating for us, not just to offset costs, but maybe we even make some good money on it?
Yeah, not to that level.
Okay,
So I'll use by comparison. So LPD joins with Fort Collins. So you have that training.
right.
And there's significant amount of financial contributions. We could not get that. The difference that they can deploy people there,
Mhm.
whereas for a fire department, you're gonna have to pay overtime, and to bring those resources from outside agencies is very expensive.
Yeah,
So to be frank, like Bertha is paying a minimal cost. I feel very comfortable that anything that is damaged, number one, it's in the agreement that they'll pay for it, but we are getting some maintenance costs. It's not gonna rebuild this facility by any stretch,
Gotcha.
nor will Wellington or any of the other.
okay, thank you.
Did you really put your new badge on?
Well, yeah, I want people to know my name.
Sorry, Chief.
So you'll see this again, but this is kind of reflective. So what you see here is, obviously you see members of the command staff up there, but the three individuals in the true center are our recruits, our most recent recruits. So we had 3 in a class of 14. So the experience for them is actually even better, because now they're running with 15 people or 14 people versus just a 3-person recruit class. So that's kind of what it represents.
That's great.
You've seen this facility. We've talked about this. This is obviously one of my highest priorities in regards to taking care of our personnel. And thank you for those that were able to make the Guardian Awards. Worst case scenario in the world is to have one of our members suffer a very significant event, as he did. But the best scenario was the outcome that we received and the quick response of our personnel in resuscitating our member. But obviously, investing in the health and wellness, not only for career longevity, but life longevity, is of the utmost importance. So we contract to Frontline currently to use this facility. The objective is anybody else that uses this facility offsets our cost to take care of our people. So the agreement we have in place right now is a $40,000 agreement with Frontline. What that is basically, that's the upfront cost, okay? And the objective is if anybody else comes in to use that facility, that would basically further decrease our costs and our medical physicals. So it's just basically a credit. We pay X for our physicals. Anybody else that comes in, it just continues to reduce our cost. So going back to that CWPP, I don't even think I called it that. The CWPP is that center document. And this is our highest risk. Certainly, we have done an exceptional job on the technical rescue, the residential commercial fire. We do that incredibly well. But the thing that's getting a lot of highlights at this point, obviously, today being a prime example, red flag day, high winds, Marshall Fire, Cameron Peak, and Alexander. That's why this document was produced. So what you see on the right-hand side is one of the pages or diagrams in this document that is the scientific evidence that says, here is the risk within your community. So those are our highest priority. That's where we deploy our resources in a preventative manner for fuel management and mitigation. We don't do it based on some fire chief being overly ambitious and say, take care of Bartram Park. We don't do that. It's based on a scientific study. So with that, we also arm the residents with their own residential, resident action plan, so they can take action on their own. Each of those communities, based on risk, has one. So we've identified high risk all the way down to low priority, and they have their like 10-step bullet plan for themselves.
Chief, real quick, the plan, the CWPP, who actually did that and who funded it? Was it done by the feds?
Ember Alliance,
Okay.
which is a nonprofit entity. It's national. I thought it was local. It's national.
Okay,
But they did our plan. They've done most of the plans around here. It was funded through an EMPG grant. So neither city or rural paid for that. It was an EMPG, which is Emergency Management. I don't know what the P is, grant.
so I'm assuming they talked to staff and
Oh, yeah.
got tons of input from you. Okay,
Yeah, we built a big committee. We pulled in our neighboring agencies. We pulled in the State Forest Service, US Forest
Okay.
Service. So it was a big endeavor.
how often is that updated, or is it?
Does be updated for eligibility for grants. It needs to be updated every 5 years. So
Okay.
we did this in 2023, and you're going to see the outcome of having this document updated here in just a second at the tune of about 9.8 million.
Thanks, Chief.
So part of this, and I appreciate Chief Dan being here, this is another document that is within. Oops. I was looking at the reflection of my computer, and/or Chief Class. So this is obviously a reflection of our service area at the time, and then it has the broader perspective that includes all of the inclusion areas that we have since taken in. But I'll call attention to the center there. That's Wilson, basically the north and south, and that divides up basically our wildland urban interface. So anything left of that line or west of that line now is being built at a higher standard in accordance to our WUI code that Chief Dan led from the perspective of this document. This is our risk map. So again, if people want to question whether we have high risk, the darker the red, the worse. So obviously you start going up towards Estes Park, extreme risk. So this is how we kind of plan out our resources and deploy our mitigations and fuel management efforts. And if you want to know our fire history, this is one that I share with the general public, not as a fear monger, but look around there. Those various colors are different fires at different times. East Troublesome, Cameron Peak, Alexander Mountain Fire is now on there. And I do this for effect to some degree, but really to call attention to reality. The unburned fuel is 100% in our service area. And we talked about it, you know, when you two were traveling with me up to the Alexander Mountain Fire via Store Mountain, we talked about it. If it went south of 34, it would be burning to Christmas. And that's all unburned fuel. So that is what we really are calling attention to. So what efforts have we put forth? Thanks again to contributions from the rural district, we were able to put this seasonal wildfire program together. So this is the second season. Those four are representatives of that. Matt Dedecker, Lieutenant Dedecker, is the sole representative that is the full-time member of that team. He coordinates that team, did phenomenal work. When we did this, we implemented this in July. Later that month was the Alexander Mountain Fire. So we could not have timed this better. Well, we could have, like, years ahead of, but the reality is they were in place for their first season, not these four members, but four other seasonal members. So when I call them seasonal, that's 6 months. So they're part-time employees, working 6 months, and then basically there's an off period, and then we bring in another team. So with that, we've armed them with some equipment that is really kind of foreign to most fire departments. This is the equipment we now have. And again, the rural has been very supportive of this. We now have our own chipper, so we can actually go to a residence and chip. We prefer not to dump it back on the land. We prefer to haul it off, but it's another way that if you have burn bans, we can still do mitigation work. The picture on the upper right, and those are slash bins or biomass stations. Basically, we can take the slash off the site and basically take it to the recycling center and dump. We can dispose of it for them. And this has been incredibly well received within some of our high-risk communities. Lower left, just some of the excavation equipment that we have. And then the bottom right is our actual chipper. and they're all painted red and labeled for a reason. We don't want to be known as a tree service, and I feel very strongly about the importance of marketing LFRA within our community, that it's not a tree service doing it, it's LFRA doing it. So this is actually what it looked like post-deployment. This was our first deployment to Watonia. So basically it goes out on a Friday, we put these bins, the residents are responsible for it. They put their slash over the weekend in there. We have had, when we did it up at Storm, we had some refrigerators and other stuff. So the residents are responsible for policing this. The oversight and enforcement is a term in the bottom, then we haul it off from there. So challenges and opportunities, I'll wrap this up, is obviously the Guardian Awards in Shelby Vrem's incident has even further heightened our awareness of the importance of health and awareness of our personnel. And you will always hear me refer to it in these two ways, career and life longevity. And I put life longevity over career. While we want them to have a successful career, their life longevity is the most important, because that's what they spend with their family here, as well as their more immediate family. Organizational structure and representative of our needs. And I appreciate Director Thompson bringing this out. National standards. We don't always comply with national standards and best practices. While we try to, there are areas that we venture off, and we do that intentionally. With Chief Class, I know he's behind me now, I'll give him, Chief Ward, Chief Stark, and others credit. We have considered alternatives. Some of our responses and the apparatus that we use are alternatives to national standards and best practices. We think we are setting the best practices through science and research through that. We'll get into that more later. Financial security and predictability. I'm sorry to keep harping on this, but what we've got to come up with is a fair and equitable financial formula for our future. And I say that from the fire chief's perspective. It supports a strategic plan and allows us to evolve as an organization. Right now, it's very tough for us to basically forecast down the road what we can and can't do till we have that financial formula. Safety of our community, proactive actions. I share this with Chief Dan. All of our efforts. I so appreciate that we have aggressive CSD and Community Safety Division. But one of the things I've always said is safety is black and white. We don't compromise on the black and white. We work within the gray, and we will seek to find compromise and not to stale development by working in that gray. We always want to basically work towards that. A prime example is the LRC. The challenges of the LRC, LFRA is deep in that. And what we are going to do is we're going to support what you guys advocate and vote for. But at the same time, it's black and white when it comes to safety. And Chief Dan has done an exceptional job with that. Last thing, enhanced regional partnerships. I came here as one of the things, the partnerships and the relationships that we have. It's one of our 5 R's. Is the power of those relationships that has served this community and this organization so well. But I want to advocate open minds and considerations for mergers, consolidations, and transitions. I think there is a number of opportunities financially and service-wise that can be enhanced through considerations of mergers, consolidations, and transitions. What I would also advocate is to seek to remove political barriers. Fires do not know political barriers, whether it be a county line, a city limit line, whatever be the case. And our relationship with our responding partners is seamless. We don't have a bad partner in that. And we can drop those barriers very quickly. We ask on the elected official side that you help us in doing that in your decision making. And then lastly, I throw this in here because this is a philosophy of ours. Buy in bulk, you do that through regionalization. It reduces organizational costs without compromising quality. So when we come together and buy the same stuff, as opposed to 15 different variations of the same thing, we can buy in bulk and reduce our overall costs. So with that, that was my 15 minutes and a couple of injects.
Thank you, Chief.
All right.
Open it up for board questions or comments?
If you, do I attention, Chair?
Yes.
Chief, can you give me some examples of political barriers that have caused issues in areas maybe we can help?
Oh, so communications being one. So I firmly believe, and you'll hear me talk about this, I believe we should be a regional communications hub. We have one of the most state-of-the-art facilities at LIDA, but we also are served by 5 different PSAPs. So what that means is there's 5 different call centers that are receiving calls and dispatching calls. And that's redundancy of personnel, equipment, and expense. If we went to a regional center, we would need a backup center. You always have to have redundancy. But that regional center, we could invest into one pot of money and serve all the communities out of that same communication center. Because it's one pot of money, the money goes much further because you're not investing in 26 consoles, you're investing in 10 consoles. So the money goes further, the advancements of technology, and your ability to basically make organizational changes that much faster.
So are there any, I'm sorry, Paul.
No, go ahead. Ken.
Are there political barriers with city council? What are you looking at there?
No, I don't throw it out to throw a
Okay.
stone. What I'd say, when
No,
I
I'm
say
just
political
trying to
barriers,
clarify.
this really is for everybody in the room. So that represents Fort Collins, Estes, the
Okay.
Sheriff's Department. So it's bigger than City of Loveland Rural Fire Protection District. It's much bigger than that.
And I don't disagree with your last thing, Paul.
No, that's fine.
It's the same aspect I'm looking at with homeless. It's a lot easier to do it. But not necessarily easier, but reasonably, you have one bucket of money to pull into, you can pull and try and do a solution that may not accommodate 100%, but at least accommodates a majority, where if you've got each one of the cities pulling individually, you're depleting the bucket and not getting a solution there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think Director Thompson would agree with, when you do regional efforts, when it comes to grants, when you could say you're serving the masses versus your 100,000 or 110,000, the grants become more lucrative and more.
Don't disagree. You have an advocate on that.
Jeff, to dovetail onto that, Chief, do you have any update on that? I know you were pushing hard to try and get some kind of a study. How's that going?
I do, not the study. I have an update that Lita is leaving.
Is that later today?
Yes.
Okay,
And that you-
sorry, thank you.
Other questions? Comments?
Andrew, I already have too much time. Well,
You read my mind.
Well, the good news is we don't have to vote on that, but we know,
Thank
you,
you,
Chief.
Chief.
The vote would go in one direction.
okay, that takes us to item 4, consider a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement for regional radio lease purchase program and related lease purchase agreement Motorola Solutions. Chief, so fire away.
So sorry, that was such a lengthy title, but this is something that Andrea Smith has worked incredibly diligent on, and she deserves all the credit for this. And I told her I would never do this again. This was a painstaking process. When we talk about politics, we talk about relationships. I think our relationships are what got us through, but the objective here was we have quite a few radios that are up for replacement. They are at end of life. So in essence, what that means is if we don't replace them, we can't repair them. It's a significant lump sum that we would need. We don't financially have the ability to pay for that outright. So what we did is enter a lease agreement at a regional level to spread the costs across 7 years. The objective of 7 years is our national standards, they change out every 4 years. So we did the same thing prior to me coming here with our SCBA. So in 7 years, we have a 7-year lease on our SCBA's. Just before the second update of the standard, we would get new SCBA's. Then we'd be compliant with the update. Same thing with the radios. Now, even still, if we were to do that, it was going to be a substantial cost. So this goes back to buy in bulk, get a reduced cost, spread it across 7 years, help all of your response partners. So we started off with PFA, Thompson Valley, we reached out to Front Range Fire Rescue, Windsor Severance, Berthoud, all of our partners. We narrowed it down based on timing and everything else. Berthoud is still on board, Windsor's on board, LFRA is on board, and PFA is on board. The others just weren't able to work it out. So Andrew's going to share those costs. They're in your packet, but this was a lot of legalese that Emily played a part in helping write, as well as, Ross, who is a partner in her firm, getting us through this as far as the IGA. Full transparency, LFRA in this document is a fiscal agent. So what that means is we are taking on the responsibility. If someone would default, it would be on us. Now, I firmly feel that our partners are solid partners. that they're not gonna put us at undue risk. Emily has worked her magic through this document to cover us on all four corners that can be covered. But I just want to be transparent that when we do these regional efforts, somebody has to be the fiscal agent. To do that, we charge our response partners a 1% charge, an administrative charge to cover the legalese, as well as to take off some of the burden that we were assuming with this. So that's the best introduction I can do for you.
So, in the cover sheet, there's the pages with some charts with blue headers. What we were able, the list price of what we identified that we needed, was 2.4 million. Because we are able to come all together and negotiate, have a larger purchase, we were able to negotiate better. And so the actual sale price that we are looking at is not quite 1.8 million. This is the 26% savings over list price. And then we would need to spread that out over 7 years. That's the second chart there that shows our purchase would be the just under 1.8 million. And then that would work out with an annual payment of 302,000. And we would have a little bit of offset there with that 1% administrative fee. The reason that's so small is because Windsor Severance, it has elected to pay for their radio equipment up front. And so they'll pay their 1% upfront, and we will use their payment as essentially a down payment on the lease purchase agreement. And then all the other three agencies will participate in the lease over the 7 years.
So by them paying it in a one-time payment, it didn't kind of go with the original plan, but we were able to keep them in to get the bulk purchase and to get the reduced. We were up in excess of 28% reduction. It's now at, would you say 26%?
26%.
And that was because some of the partners pulled out, and then subsequently Windsor saying, hey, we're gonna do just a one-time payment.
Just start stretching it out about how many years does it stretch out
7.
over? 7 years. So they're paying the full 7 years up front.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I want to make
Yeah,
sure.
much smaller organization though.
So, as Chief said, this is a very unusual agreement because it does involve a high degree of trust among the four agencies. LFRA certainly has some risk in being the fiscal agent because, as Chief said, you're the only one contracting directly with Motorola. So if one of the other agency flakes, you're going to have to figure out how to handle that. That said, the other three parties are taking on an equal risk. If, for example, I can't use Windsor Severance because they're paying up front, but let's say Bertha just didn't make its annual payment. Or let's say LFRA stopped paying Motorola, right? The other parties' radios are still subject to the lease purchase agreement, and they would be subject to potential repossession of their radios as well. So it's an unusual agreement that does involve the parties having a high degree of confidence that all of the four parties are creditworthy and will pay as promised. I will tell you, I've not spoken directly with Berthoud. I have spoken with Pooter, and I've also spoken with legal counsel for Windsor Severance, and all of them understand that and feel very confident and excited to be entering into this program. But I just wanted to make the board aware of that because it's not something that you come across very frequently.
Are you comfortable with it?
Wow, that's a good question. So, for the board members who don't know me yet, I am a super conservative lawyer, meaning I like to practice from a position of least risk possible. And I'm also a fairly capable contracts lawyer. This agreement has more risk in it than I'm used to. And so from that perspective, I would have liked to button it down more for you, but it simply can't be done. We did have a call with Motorola and we said, can we break this into 4 agreements? And they told us no, or at least no, not with these terms, not with this discount, not with this timeline, et cetera, et cetera. So you'd lose all the benefit of doing it. On the flip side of that, I know all 4 of these agencies well. I know counsel for Windsor Severance well. I have no reason to believe that any of these four agencies isn't capable and committed of making the payments as promised. So while I would like there to be little to no risk in the contract itself, I think in this case, we have to look outside the contract at the contracting parties and say, how much risk do we really think it is that Pooter doesn't pay? Right, and I think that that risk is very low.
Questions from the board?
We don't have anything in the contract that's holding their feet to the fire.
It's difficult to do because of Tabor's non-appropriation provision. So I'm not sure how familiar our new board members are with Tabor and all of the fun that comes with it, but there are provisions in Tabor that say a local governmental agency or any governmental agency cannot enter into a contract in any given year that obligates payment in any future year without a vote of the people or a setting aside of all funds. And those last two options are usually non-starters. Nobody takes contracts to a vote of the citizens. I've done it once in 17 years. And setting all the funds aside is usually impractical, right? If you had excess millions of dollars of funds, we wouldn't have to do lease purchase agreements to begin with. So the workaround that the Colorado courts have approved is putting in a provision in a contract that says all obligations to pay are subject to annual appropriation of funds. And if you look closely, not only at the LFRA contracts, but every contract you'll see for the city of Loveland, you will find this provision in it because it's in every contract. I've been practicing for 17 years. My partner, Dino Ross, has been practicing for 30 since before Tabor was enacted, maybe 35. And between the two of us, we have never once seen a non-appropriation clause exercised. It's not to say it will never happen, but it would be exceedingly rare for non-appropriation to be exercised, but it's always there, right? We can never discount the fact that it's always there, and therefore it always poses a possibility.
I also had a question about the insurance premiums. Is that separate from the lease payment?
So the lease agreement, the lease purchase agreement requires LFRA as the fiscal agent to insure all of the radios, even after each other agency's portion is turned over to them. So what we've provided for in the IGA is that LFRA will obtain the insurance, but then you will invoice separately, so separate from the lease payments, the other three agencies. So if there's 100 radios total and Pooter has 50% of them and Windsor Severance has 20% and Berthoud has 10%, then they will pay 50, 30, and 10% of those insurance costs so that you don't pay any insurance for them.
And then if they have a damaged, I'm sorry, is it okay if I keep asking
Yeah, you're
questions?
doing great.
You're good.
If they have a damaged radio, then they send it to Loveland and Loveland sends it out and then it gets replaced and then we send it back. Is that what the contract?
Yeah,
says?
so there's a couple of options in there. Technically, you're responsible for making sure it's repaired. We put that LFRA can repair it directly or can arrange for its repair by a third-party provider, which could be, in the case of like Pooter, I don't know, maybe they have their own in-house people that can do it. So you'll either actually repair it or direct the agency to do the repair. We also put in there that if they have to make a claim under insurance for repair or replacement and there's a deductible that's due, they pay you back for the deductible. So they have to reimburse you those costs.
So then final question, if I may, Mr.
Yep.
Chair, and thank you, Emily. I think this
Of course.
might be cheap actually. Are we going to need staffing to manage this program?
No, we have, Captain Lyons manages this. Well, I say that, from a financial perspective, it is on Andrea. That's why I said I'll never do this to her again, because the build up to this, just to get to this point, has been an uphill, battle. And it's not internally, it's just dealing with all these other agencies and their changes. But right now, it's on her shoulders and we'll monitor that. That's why we put an administrative cost in there. we certainly can put costs in there to bring on anybody.
Right, or really cover anyone's, much of anyone's time, 1%, $2,000 a year.
It should be 6 invoices a year,
Okay, so
is what it should, and then anything with the, you know, repairs, cap and rates would handle, but.
okay,
And each of them have their own representatives from the radio side. It's not like we're gonna be sending radios off on their behalf.
okay,
They will still do all of that. It's covered from the legalese side, the way Emily's stating it, but internally, it will operate pretty much independently of each other.
gotcha, okay.
Well, quick question. So this is for all the chiefs. So what's the lifespan? I know that's a tough one for radios because things are changing dynamically. What in 7 years are we going to be in the same boat, do you think?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That we'll have to make a decision whether we want to purchase them outright or enter into another lease. It's like any other equipment or apparatus or SCBA's. We have to have a replacement plan. Our problem is we're not in a financial position to make the immediate purchase as LPD did. We don't have that kind of money to do that. That's why we spread it out over the course of time. But you reference radio specifically, the technology is changing like
Sure.
this. And if Motorola had their way, we'd replace them every single year.
Do we have any reserve funds for radios?
You know, basically, that's what we're exercising here. So.
But we didn't have a separate reserve for radios in the past.
No, we have a budget a line item that we would be replacing X number of radios.
Right, I got that, but we don't, I mean, 7 years, maybe that's something we want to do is have a reserve for radio. So in 7 years. We have,
100%.
I'm just saying, right?
Yeah, very, very similar to an apparatus replacement.
It's not trivial cost, right? So, yeah.
Motorola is typically the driver from that, because we'll ask them the same question, and they'll tell us 7 to 10 years is the lifespan. But they'll, out of the blue, they'll be like, that's the end of service for that radio, and then we're like, great, we have 50 of those.
Right.
Trying to figure it out.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Go ahead. That was you. Just a couple quick questions and then, a comment, based on Paul's question and comment. Yeah, eventually it'd be nice to have replacement. No different than bunker gear, no different than Vesper PD, I mean, all that. Normally you look at your capitalized items of high dollar amount, vehicles, things like that. These are less common, but they're reoccurring. And the problem you run into when you do it all at once, we got to do it all at once again, and it's a hard hit. So doing the lease spreads the cost out. I get that, but you're paying, the 4.297%. Today, that's a good rate, but 3 years from now, it may not be a good rate, but there's no variable in the agreement. So I couldn't find that. I had one question though on page 47. So I'm trying to understand the flow of money. How long, let's say they don't pay us on the day they're supposed to, how long did we have? What I'm reading here is that September 1st, every agency has to pay in. And then the payment due date though is 1/1/27, and the first payment has to be made September of 26. So when I look at Schedule B, which is page 87, that gives us a few months to collect it if I'm not mistaken based on what I'm reading. However, in page 47, it says the total amounts to $652,690. But the lease payments is $642,690. The difference is probably the administrative fee, but yet it doesn't so stipulate in the requirements on page 47. Because it says the $652,690 is the total lease payment as shown on December 5th, 2025 in the term sheet, Exhibit B. Exhibit B though shows the $642,690. So I was confused on. I was just trying to figure out what number. It's not a big thing, but it's just.
Emily, can you help on that?
I can't speak to the numbers. I'd have to defer to Andrea on that. The collection date analysis was correct, though. I specifically put September 1st to give several months cushion. You shouldn't need it. They should pay by September 1st. But I specifically did that to give you that cushion. But I'll have to defer to Andrea on the numbers.
I would say, thank you, Director Thompson. I would say, Emily, it's page 47 of the packet, but on the IGA, I think there's a typo. Item 3D, I think that should be 642,690 and it's 652,690.
So which?
Look at it.
There.
Yeah, page 3 of 11 on the agreement, 3D. The 650 to 690 and the Motorola agreement, page 87, shows it's 640 to 690. So if you look at the page 44 of 135, the amounts, the payment amounts. The payment amounts in items A, B, and C are correct. It's just the total that I think that's just a typo. Where it
Let me
should be-
check real fast.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because everything else ties the 642, 690, with exception of the administrative fee. But that's still what you told the 650 to 690. So I think it's just a typo change to 5 to 4, and that'd be better.
So the amounts in A, B, and C are correct, is what you said.
Yes, those tie back.
It's. This is the Motorola document. Or no, it's this
That's the
document.
item.
Yes.
Okay,
Downstreams.
Thank you.
No, it does not. It's.
Good.
Mayor,
So mine basically goes along the line, I'm used to getting into IGAs, I do them all the time with intergovernmental agencies within the federal government. The differences in the federal government we make are unlikely, so even though we're in there, I guess the question I have for you, Emily, is this. If somebody defaults on this. Well,
Yeah.
hang on, first off, the first question comes here. If somebody defaults on this, it looks like, I wouldn't expect everybody to default, but if you get one out there, worst case scenario with 299,000 with Cooter Fire. Are we prepared to cover that cost if that happens? Do we have a one-time coverage for that? I'm just.
We would have fund balance or reserves to do that. Yeah, we cover 299,000. I certainly wouldn't advocate that.
No, I wouldn't either. I'm just, I look at worst case scenario, and I agree. I think these are great partners to work with and everything else. But I also look at the aspect that the city of Loveland didn't expect to lose $10.4 million in a year.
Right.
And I also know that when the city, and this is gonna go to you, Jim, as the city manager for Loveland. When cities go through this aspect, part of what we look at is we look at the obligations that we have to pay to. And that's the areas that we can't cut, that go there, so the cuts go somewhere else. I would assume the expectation would be the same with the other cities. Is that a good, I hate assuming, but is that a good assumption?
That was good.
Okay, and then for you, Emily, the other question I have for you is, what are our ramifications on default if somebody does default? How do we go back at that? Because we can't afford to lose radios. That's a life or limb thing.
well, so, remedy on default, right, is, well, it depends on how they default, right? If they don't appropriate and they exercise their right of non-appropriation, there's not really a remedy. And that has been litigated before, right? If you attach a penalty to non-appropriation, then it's no longer non-appropriation. Then you no longer meet the criteria that are required to satisfy Tabor's prohibition against multiple fiscal year financial obligations. If they default in a different way, so for example, they lose radios and they don't tell you, or radios are damaged and they don't get them fixed, or they don't pay you an insurance premium, but even though the money was appropriated for it, you've got a breach of contract action. And so you could bring a breach of contract action, potentially a specific performance action. Those are kind of squishy under Colorado law for governmental agencies. If a party does totally just non-appropriate and you've got your worst case scenario of pooter, the other three agencies either would have to come up with the funds to cover their cost, or use the radios are potentially subject to repossession by Motorola. And that's what makes this contract different. And it feels riskier, right? Because usually that's not a risk. And again, it goes back to how much faith you have in these other agencies and your partnership with them.
Well, the problem I have with this is the aspect of Tabor. And it goes back to what our city attorney says, sometimes it's lawful but awful. Of being able to, it's the aspect that you're not supposed to appropriate monies outside of the year that they're supposed to be used. Until it's been out there, unless you go to the citizens. And I think that's probably the only concern I would have with this, is stepping into that bounds there, understanding that. I think Windsor and Severance and all the ones I'm looking at right now, I mean, actually, they've got decent funds out there. To run with for the most part, so that would be my concern, but. With that said, we need radios.
Yeah, and Emily, correct me if I'm wrong in mentioning this, the legal representation of the 3 of the 4 agencies is out of the same firm. So Windsor Severance, is that appropriate to say?
It's known among this group, right? It's known among this group that our firm represents not only LFRA, but also PFA and Berthoud. Now what we told all 3 of those agencies, both as we were asked to develop these documents, as we have in the past, is we can help develop documents so long as everybody's interests are aligned and you're in agreement. If at any point the parties were to get sideways, let's say Pooter didn't appropriate or failed to notify you of lost radios, we would back out of the representation and we would obtain both parties alternate counsel. But yes, we did represent 3 parties in preparing the agreement: Berthoud, Pooter, and LFRA. We do not represent Windsor Severance. I'm very familiar with their counsel, John Camille, and he and I had several conversations about this agreement. And he said Windsor Severance wants to move forward as well.
They can serve me less because they're paying up front.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and his question to me was, if we pay up front and one of the other parties doesn't appropriate, why does Windsor Severance lose their radios? Right? And my answer to him was, well, because that's what Motorola said is the deal in order to make this arrangement work. And we couldn't talk them into a different deal.
Operate under the mentality, nobody gets left behind. And I don't want to be totally simplistic about it, but we operate with these folks every single day. So I have, our relationship, our operations are seamlessly tied together.
Who backed out of not backed out, but who decided?
It was timing. Thompson Valley, when they assessed it, they had a different need for radios. Front Range didn't have a great need. They had a lot of reserve radios that they felt they could operate with. I think those are the 2 primary. I mean, Thompson Valley would have been a big one because they had quite a few radios, but those 2 dropping out kind of played with the percentages.
Okay. Thank you.
But it's solely on timing. It wasn't about the agreement or what we're forecasting.
Thank you.
And then I just want to let the board know, I did run these numbers through Excel, and you're right. Paragraph D should say 642, 690. So if the board approves this, Andrea will need to correct that and make sure when you circulate it to the other parties for signature, assuming they approve it, that they get the correct copy.
So, Pooter Fire and Berthoud Fire approved the IGAs last week at their meetings, so I don't know how that affects this. Windsor Severance meets this evening. So that is something we need to take into consideration today. We need Windsor Severance to agree before we sign the Motorola agreement. So as part of any action today, we need to include.
And I've talked to Chief Angermuller as recent as yesterday about it. They're fully on board. He doesn't sense any concern there. So he's met with his board and they are prepared to sign.
Comments, questions? I have one question. I just want to clarify it if I could. So somebody defaults, it has to be either Berthoud or Pooter. Are we alone responsible, or are all the agencies responsible?
That's a good question. So technically, you're the only contracting party with Motorola. But if, as a result of one of the other parties' defaults, you don't make the full payment to Motorola, all 4 agencies' radios are subject to repossession. So if I'm one of the other agencies, I'm highly motivated to help you figure out a solution because my radios are just the same at risk as yours are.
Or we're responsible for it.
Yes, now we're paid 1%. Is that 1% assuming as part of that, that we're gonna take the risk? Is that part of it? Or can we restructure the contract where it says everybody's responsible if somebody defaults?
I don't know why staff chose the 1% or what was taken into consideration. Yes, in theory, we could redraft the contract to allocate risk differently, but not by Friday, which is when Motorola has told us they have to have it done to do the deal this year.
Are we gonna be able to do it by Friday with the errors that have taken place? Sounds like 2 people have already signed it. Now we gotta go back to them and ask them to re-sign it with the correct number.
Well, I'm not so worried about that. It's a simple typographical error. When you add the numbers in A, B, and C, or A, B, C, and D, they add up to 642, 690. All we need to do is get their permission to change out page 1 or page is this? Page 3 in the packet with the correct number. But I don't think this needs to go back for reapproval. Nothing has changed other than correcting a mathematical error that doesn't affect any of their payments.
Vote on this? Is there particular verbiage we'll need to use in a motion here?
If the board chooses to approve it, we'll need a motion. We'll need 2 motions. One to approve the intergovernmental agreement for regional radio lease purchase program, reflecting the correct total annual payment amount in subparagraph 3D. And then separately, we'll need a motion to approve the lease purchase agreement with Motorola.
Would somebody like to make that motion?
Well, I have a question before I make a motion, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
And I have a couple comments.
Yeah, by the way we do it, maybe city council does this way. We make a motion and we second, and I open it up.
Then-
to further-
I'm there.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
we're there.
make the
That's
motion.
it. We're used to that.
I move that we approve the IGA reflecting the correct amount in paragraph 3D for the purchase of Motorola radios by LFRA in partnership with the additional said organizations. That's a little wordier than I think what you did.
That's all right. It works out.
Paul.
I'll second.
Yeah.
You gave it.
Okay, open up for discussion.
So mine is more common. I mean, would I prefer, a couple comments, would I prefer we not have to do it this way? It's there. Do I get a little bit more comfort level knowing that we've got a buffer in there to be able to collect the funding out? Yes. Understanding the aspects and the importance of radios. I don't think there's any fire authority or district or area that's gonna wanna lose their radios going in there. So I think it'll get that way. It's not the way I prefer to see this happen, but I get it.
All right.
Other comments?
Just curiosity, so I guess Tim or Jeff. So the old radios we have, do those get turned back into Motorola? Do we keep those? Do you sell them? I mean, what do you do with those?
Actually, I don't know if it was in this lease agreement. Sometimes it's turning it in to get traded value.
There's
I
no
didn't see
trading
that,
value
so.
on these, no, there's not, because they're end of life, end of service life. Could we sell them? That I don't.
Could they be distributed on the mountain?
They all have radios.
I mean, additional, what ifs kind of things. I'm sorry, I don't mean to get in the weeds on this.
We
I'm just
have to
curious.
maintain them,
Okay.
we use
Okay.
them.
Software updates.
We keep a certain number of spares that,
Okay.
so we have, if a radio breaks, we can throw one in service, it doesn't have high use, but any radio we keep, we have to do annual maintenance on it, and keep it programmed right, so we wanna be good about the number of radios we got to do.
Thanks, Chief.
We've done donations or selling to other.
That's what I was getting at too.
Yeah, that's on the table. Guess.
Thanks, Chief.
Jim?
Just a question on the budget, chief. I see under the, page 44 might be the best example where we offset the admin fee paid by the 2 other agencies. Which would be revenue but then you're showing your expense it's right down to what we're going to pay. So the question is, did we budget the 298 or the 302? two in the budget first.
We have not budgeted either at this point. The payment is not due for 1 year after the lease begins. So we do not have either amount in the budget for it.
So do we show the revenue coming in September of next year? We didn't do that either.
We did not do that because we didn't know this at the time that we did that.
So we have nothing in for 2026, knowing payments to it the first of 2027, 1/1/27.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the problem, right? I mean, do you put the cart before
So,
the horse?
so right, but so when we get the payment in, then are we gonna set that aside? And not show it as, okay, that's all I had, thank you.
And just let me be clear, this is not our chosen route. We're kind of handcuffed here. And this is the reason I did the presentation on the front end. This is a difficult situation, would not be, to your point, we're paying interest. We've got all this risk out there. This is not the way we would want to do business. And I hope collectively we can come to agreements that we won't do it in the future. This is kind of a stopgap solution for the time being.
So if I could ask a question, why, oops, I lost my hat. Why isn't there a provision where maybe we would share that burden, which I think, Mr. Chair had mentioned, if someone doesn't make their payment, then we are solely responsible for their chunk of the payment. Why isn't it, just for easy round numbers, say 4 organizations, everybody's paying quarter, someone doesn't pay. Now the rest of us pay their portion, third, right? Like, why isn't there that provision in the?
Well, because we get into a horrible Tabor vortex, right? So if we put in a provision that any agency will essentially cover a non-appropriating agency's payment, that obligation to cover their payment would itself be subject to Tabor non-appropriation.
But it's not for us because we hold the contract.
Well, so under a lease purchase agreement, right, lease purchase agreements are themselves a workaround for Tabor because Tabor would not allow any agency to enter into a straight up loan agreement, right? You loan me money and I'll pay you back every year. Isn't permitted because we can't promise to pay back every year because we are subject to this non-appropriations environment. So under a lease purchase agreement, they're transferring the property to you. It's sort of a rent to buy, right? They're transferring the property to you and you own it as long as you make payments on it. And if you stop making payments, they take the radios back.
Right.
So LFRA is technically subject to making the payments every single year, but you yourselves could decide to not pay for any reason. And if you decide not to pay for any reason, whether it's their default or your own, the penalty is that the radios get repossessed. So yes, it's your burden because you're on the contract, but also you have the same right of non-appropriation as everybody else, both as to the other 3 parties and as to Motorola. So while you're relying on these parties to pay you, they're relying on you to pay Motorola because if you don't, then their radios are subject to repossession.
Thank you, Emily.
Yeah, so, and Emily, going into that, it's kind of like, when you lease a car in itself, there's a penalty, a monetary penalty that comes with taking it back. There's no monetary penalty on this. The penalty itself is losing the radios.
Yes. You can't put a
If there
monetary
were a
penalty.
monetary penalty, it would be subject to Tabor at that time, correct?
Right. So you can't put a penalty on non-appropriation because what the courts have said is at that point, it's not a true right of non-appropriation, which is necessary for to get around Tabor's restrictions or to get through them, maybe is a better way to say it.
It's a rock and a hard place, Chief. It's a rock and a hard place.
Other comments, questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, follow-up motion.
Oh, yeah, I forgot what it was.
Fix it. Fix
Oh,
it.
we need to approve the lease purchase agreement with Motorola is the second one.
I move that we approve the lease. Oh, I think I might have accidentally put that in the first motion.
You're
Oh,
good.
that's okay too, if
That's
it was
a
already
lease-
done.
The lease purchase agreement with Motorola.
Christie knows what you meant.
It's really hard. Yeah, okay, you know what I'm saying, right? Okay, I just need a second.
Second.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, first and a second, further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Well done, Andrea.
Paul, I do like the aspect of taking a look long range, 7 years out and seeing what we budget wise that way. So we're not here.
We can all talk about it at budget time, or prior to budget time, if the chief has something in his tricks.
Okay, this takes us to item number 5, review and consider a motion to approve adopting a deemed approach to catch-up retirement contributions.
Andrew Smith.
So, this is pretty simple, basically the Secure 2.0 Act of 2022, there's been kind of some delays in. Basically, I think I'm rolling it out. Yeah, implementing, that's the word I'm looking for. But it requires that we provide or catch-up contributions of more than 150,000. And then that'll go up further out in the year, but if your FICA wages are over 150,000 and you make catch-up contributions to the retirement plan, those must be Roth contributions. And so what we can do is, without the employee absolutely having to make, if they forget to make that election, it automatically kicks in. That's what the deemed approach is that we are recommending. And then also, employees reaching the age of 60 through 63 basically have a super catch-up where they can do additional contributions in addition to the catch-up. This allows that we add that provision to our plan. That's basically it.
Questions, comments?
No financial commitment, just a
No.
default side.
It's just updating our plan document to reflect the law.
None? Good. Okay,
That's easy.
they're asking us to approve the changes. If the board's inclined to do so, I need a motion to that effect, please.
So moved.
There a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you. Okay. Consider approval of First Amendment to LFRA bylaws. Emily, I believe this is yourself.
Yep, and for our 3 board members who are continuing from I guess it was October, I had provided this as an informational item back then. As the board is aware, the authority has entered into new lease, my mind's still back on the old matter. New impact fee IGAs with its 3 governing partners. So that would be the city of Loveland, Larimer County, and the town of Johnstown. I have received confirmation from the town of Johnstown and the city of Loveland that they have also approved the IGAs. So those are signed, sealed, and delivered with those 2 agencies. I've not received an update from Larimer County, but I'm in contact with their city attorney's office to get a status update on that. Separately, under the new statutes that govern the direct collection of impact fees by fire departments, there is a provision that says there have to be certain magic words in your bylaws that allow you to collect impact fees and explain the capital expenditures on which they may be used. So what you have in front of you is a bylaws amendment that sets forth those provisions. LFRA's bylaws are a 3-party approved document. They are approved by LFRA, but they are also approved by the city of Loveland and the Loveland Rural Fire Protection District. So I presented these bylaws amendments to Linda Glesney, counsel for the rural, and Vince Jungles, counsel for the city. And the bylaws amendment has already been approved by both of those agencies. So if the board approves the bylaws amendment today, that will be finished. And the only thing remaining will be for me to continually ping the county until we get that signed IGA back.
Thank you, Emily.
Yep.
Questions, comments by the board? Okay, we're being asked to approve this, so I ask for a motion if anybody's inclined to do so.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. All right, next, with no vote necessary. Briefing papers and correspondence.
Okay, I will do my best to go through this as quick as I can. There is some stuff we've already covered, so it should be fairly. So, real quickly, Director Sampson and Nicole, what we do is just briefly share with you the correspondence that we receive, whether it be in my office or anywhere throughout the organization. So we do that on the front end, and then we start going into some details as to some media coverage and so forth. So let the first one go to Chief Ward here for a centenarian birthday celebration.
Yeah, this one's been a month or so ago. We got a call from the Brookdale at Mariana Butte. One of their residents is a veteran, World War II veteran, the Army Air Corps, and was turning 100, Mr. Bear. So we joined on a Saturday afternoon with a car club, Birth and Fire, and then LPD arrived just as we were finishing. They were busy on some calls and so they got delayed. But we did a parade around the building for him, and then on our second round by, we were able to stop and get out and visit with him, and he shared a couple stories with us, and so it was a good experience for our firefighters. Made his day.
So this next one is one we get fairly common, but this is, I believe the Lieutenant Tyler Austin, Melissa Kirkpatrick, and Priscilla Ranger. They responded to a smoke detector. We do smoke detectors if their alarms are going off. We check their batteries or change them out. This is an elderly couple just expressing their thanks for the crew's efforts. And as Chairman Swanee pointed out during the rural board meeting, it was about their attitude in doing that. It seems like a kind of a pain in the butt task, and to some degree it is. My smoke detector goes off at 2:30 in the morning with a low battery, just like anybody else.
Hey, I called you when mine went in.
Yeah, as opposed to evacuate, stand out by the curb, we'll be there in a minute. Anyway, our crews do an exceptional job at this. So just a letter of thanks. This next one, I've already referenced. Big deal for this organization, and so proud of not only the organization, but Shelby Brem as well. Full cardiac arrest, 60 days later, returned to work, and is serving our community just like he did the day before. So we celebrated that. We also celebrated the importance of family, not only the LFRA family, but the broader family at home. His entire crew was there, or excuse me, entire shift was there. So we were able to reach out to our response partners who covered all of our stations during this brief ceremony. And then we produced a video, which I shared with you all. We'll share that nationally as well, because it is a success. You don't hear a story like this very often. So the award is called the Guardian Award. I shared that description with you as well. And I feel very strongly that we've named it the right thing. I hope we never see this award again. So. We talked about our FRFC Academy, which Chief Class did a phenomenal job of actually 7 classes, am I correct? Seven recruit classes that he led. Chief Class will be rotating. It's a rotational basis, so he'll rotate back to Operations Battalion Chief, and Chief Goodell, who's currently a shift battalion, will go into that role and take over those duties. But Chief Class has done an exceptional job representing not only LFRA, but the FRFC. So thank you, Chief Class. This one, we shared this with the rural board. This was a Science to the Station. I'm very proud that they chose Loveland. So this was out at the Embassy Suites. Seems like a weird conference name, but basically these are researchers from all over the world that came to Loveland to share their research on firefighter health and wellness. So LFRA was a strong supporter of it. You see our 2 apparatus there. In the far distant is Engine 43, representing modern technology. The more forthright unit is the 100-year-old American La France. I will tell you that got a hell of a lot more photos than 43s did, but it was just an honor to host that. We're hopeful that they'll come back. They're going to go to Kansas City, and the plan currently is for them to come back in 2027 and host the conference here again. So big deal for us. LFRA in the news is something we share just whether it be in the Reporter Herald or any other forum that's out there. So I referenced this earlier. This is the incredible work of Chief Smith and Lieutenant Dedecker. They did a fantastic job of working on this, and I think Andrea Smith played a part in this as well. This is a $9.8 million drop your political lines grant. So this is protecting the gateway to the Rockies. So this will serve all the way up 34 and beyond, working in conjunction with Glen Haven, Estes Park, our watershed partners, as well as LFRA. So we will play a huge part in this, as will our wildfire program participants.
Chief, how's that paid out? I mean, how does that all work? Mechanics of it?
It remains to be seen. So we probably won't see this for another year and a half.
Okay.
So it's a federal grant, and it'll be divvied out in various ways, but we're still trying to hash that out with the county. Josh from the county is basically overseeing it, because it'll filter through the county and then out to the partners.
Thanks, great job.
Upper left is
Can I just real quick, is this the one that I saw in the paper where the county was giving Pete Clear Fire the headline on this?
no, Hooter Fire is not part of it.
Okay.
This is strictly us, Glen Haven, Estes Park,
Okay,
as far as
cool.
representatives, fire department,
Good.
and then watersheds. And I'm sorry, Larimer County Emergency Services as well. The other item is, some of you know that we did what is called a meaningful sentence. We worked with the municipal judge on this. So fireworks violators had an opportunity to pay a sentence or pay a fee or come over to the LFRA, and then we put them to work. So there were 5 total participants, 4 showed up. I've joked about this, one of them being a firefighter, did not show up, but chose to pay the fee. Probably a good idea there, but the point is they came in, we kind of told them the importance of wildfire risk in our community and how their actions contributed to it. I think for the most part that it was well received. There was one gentleman I questioned whether he'll be back. But it was a nice program that we worked jointly with the municipal judge.
And not one of our fire.
It was not an LFRA.
Thanks for clarifying.
The other one was, I should reference, the one on the left is the Red Wreath program. This is Jared. Jared is one of our inspectors. He came up with this. He brought it from his former fire department in Iowa, brought this over. Fantastic program. Every fire station has a wreath that is currently lit red. And if you see any of those lights turn white, they've either blown out or we've had a fire related to Christmas or the holidays. So it's really calling attention to the holidays and the importance of situational awareness with additional guests. I talked to him today. I think we ought to change it just to any type of fire, structure fire during the holidays, because the real focus is on the broader prevention. If we just say it was a Christmas tree fire, we likely will not have a specific Christmas tree fire. We've had fires already during this period, where all the wreaths are red. The one on the right, again, is Shelby, and this is, I so appreciate the RH helping us cover this, and Shelby's expression of thanks there. I believe that's with his daughter. This is Chief Ward has kind of led this. He is a little bit biased to the photographer in the lower left corner. I'm not sure why. Could be some sort of relationship, but on a serious note, both Ian, upper left, and Mitchell have served us for a number of years, do fantastic work in helping us with our social media photographs and just covering us from day to day. We added Hunter Evans. All 3 are volunteers. We give them a little bit of swag, maybe a hat here or there to do it, but fantastic photographers, and we're happy to have them. So I'm just doing my little.
As a side note, Mitchell is a firefighter himself with another department, so
Remain nameless, so.
he was not arrested July 4th.
I didn't think of that. All right, so we've hit on the radio lease agreement. We don't need to do that anymore. The inclusion elections, those town halls. So what we did in those areas where we brought people into our service area, we actually met with a number of them, 65 at one town hall, which I thought was great representation, just to really tell them what the LFRA does, overview of our services, and how to request our services. And the big highlight, because all of them are in high-risk areas, was really on the wildfire protection side and how to request those resources. And again, it goes back to the CWPP. It's not a phone call to the fire chief, hey, can I have a slash bin in my neighborhood? So that really went over well, and they're kind of lining up accordingly. So overall, good program.
Chief, quick question. Have you heard anything back from the people in the inclusion saying they've contacted their insurance company or needed letters from you or from the department?
Yes, actually, thanks for bringing that up. So I've done 4 letters to date. Some of those letters go back to the residents. So what he's talking about is in these inclusion areas, because it's so difficult for them to get insurance, what we have agreed to do is go out, do a site assessment on their property, prescribe a mitigation plan for them, and then we will come out and re-inspect. We'll document all that. As long as they meet our mitigation subscription, I will send a letter. We call it the gold standard letter because it comes from my office saying the fire department has done this, trained professionals to their insurance. The very first gold standard letter went to Mr. Pinkert, who he was the separate.
really?
Yeah, so we don't know what the results of that gold standard letter are yet. The other 3 were requests for access. So the insurance company was saying, can you access that property 365? So some of them are pull-ups.
Sure.
They're tight. Bartram Park has a lot of tight spaces. So we were able to say, yeah, we could, our response plan can basically get our apparatus up there.
So are those citizens gonna give you some feedback when they?
I've asked all of them to
Perfect,
do
thank
that.
you.
And literally, I got a second or one this afternoon who is looking for a reassessment. So they just did their mitigation work. Now they want that reinspection.
That's good press. Thank you.
Guardian Awards program, address that. Chief Dan, I just got to confirm that she is here. You've all heard the sad but bittersweet news of Chief Dan's retirement. March 17th? March 17th will be her new retirement of 2027.
She called me in Hawaii on the beach.
Anyway, we're incredibly proud. More to come with Chief Dan's retirement, but she's done a fantastic job. And while she's here, I put this in here, not knowing she would be here. I do want to call out 2 projects of late that are in conjunction with the city. Caroline Court, which you may have heard, has been a problematic area for us, and I appreciate City Manager Thompson's support in this. This project started in 2022, and we just got this basically cleaned up. So there was some illegal activities going on there, multiple fires, and a dilapidated structure that has now been scraped. So I'll share pictures with you here in just a second. But that was with city staff. Finally got that cleaned up, but started in December of 2022.
Where's Caroline Court?
So just adjacent to Station 3. So basically south of Station 3, that mobile home park there. I'll show you pictures here in just a second. The LRC is another one that Chief Dan is putting a lot of extended effort into, and we're happy to do that. We want to make sure that we're supportive of council and your decisions. However it goes, LFRA is going to be there to make sure that what we're doing is safe and within proper code. So. CAD to CAD, Director Bukowski, you were asking how's this progress. I sent a letter of thanks to Kimberly Culp regarding this. This is a software that is already implemented south of us in Boulder County. What this would enable us to do is to be able to see across the county line to Weld County. And that's important to us. Certainly if the Cascadia project moves forward, really starts coming towards us, we want to reciprocate their responses to us, our responses to them, so we got adequate coverage. Right now, that imaginary line, okay, that we drive across every single day, we can't see across it, can't see that apparatus. And we work, classic example, yesterday, multiple accidents on I-25 were the multi-agency response. Some of those agencies, we can't see their units. We can talk to them, okay, through a changing of channels. We can't see them. Whereas on this side of the house, we can see all of our units and deploy closest unit. That's what we want to get to. So this is outside the realm of LIDA. This is not what they do. LIDA is the telephone, the 911 service side of it. This is CAD to CAD. They're agreeing at least on the front end, $250,000 is what's budgeted to pursue this. So it's coming up for a vote. I'll keep you informed on it. This is a huge step forward for us if we're able to achieve this.
Chief, you just said vote. Who are the voting parties, may I ask?
It is Chris, so it's the city of Loveland, it is the city of Fort Collins and the county, the sheriff. It's outside of LFRA. LFRA does not have direct representation on that.
They're one vote.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I sent it to Kimberly. I CC'd all of our partners. So Greeley's fire chief, Windsor Severance, Front Range Fire Risk, every single one of them reciprocated the thanks and agreements that this would be a good move. So that's all of our partners. I also extended that email out to PFA, Berthoud, all of our other partners, trying to get all fire representation on board with that. So it's really gonna come down to those partners saying it's of value to them. Now, in fairness, it's of great value to fire resources. Police does not necessarily do this. So that's the difficulty. This is information only. I have a meeting tomorrow, but this is very important. We have cameras within our service area that look into early fire detection. So I don't know where those cameras are. I don't know exactly what they're doing at this point. That's what this meeting's about. So we want to get access to those cameras. So we can basically utilize those cameras to our benefit as well. We don't pay for those cameras. But ultimately, what this company wants to do is turn it over to emergency resources and get some sort of financial return. Early detection AI cameras, to me, is critical.
Who monitors that?
Well, we won't play a direct part. That's where I want to go to the real-time information center and have somebody basically monitoring those cameras just as they would with traffic cameras. Jim, did you? Were you gonna weigh in? Maybe not.
Well, yeah, I will, thank you. So you kind of look at the real-time crime center, same thing. There's a lot of technologies out there that we haven't deployed in this region. You know, the CAD system, even, cross-departmental access, knowing where units are at, so you have the quickest to respond in many emergencies. We're not there yet. We're not there on a lot of fronts, and this is just another one where we have cameras out there that if you could utilize them to detect the fire sooner, by all means, and so you should share that data. You should openly have access to that data. So all these movements afoot are kind of bringing us up into the 21st century, and we're behind for a lot of reasons in this region. So I'm used to having a very robust system where you have so many other things. You have drones that lift off when you get a call, and then it sends it to your mobile data terminal and your cell phone if you're a responding agency, and you see what's going on before you get there, so you know what resource to deploy and how. And so we're not even close to that yet. So there's so many things we have, but this is just another step in the right direction. So my feeling toward it, all of it costs money, realize that, but if it saves lives and it reduces the cost of incidents and you get there quicker, we all know that first few minutes is also important. So anyhow, again, I like moving in these directions because I think these enhance at a minimal cost that in the long run will save us a lot of cost.
I think it's a core aspect of what we're here for to begin with. Save lives, right?
There's always those issues that you have to contend with when you start getting access. You create that public record. Now somebody could ask for that public record. It's no different than the traffic lights. We get people that ask for a core request to see if their friend or otherwise was in a car with a certain individual, and all kind of stuff that goes on. So this just opens up that door. So I just share that openly.
I just read an article about the new mayor being interviewed and pushing for more things on public safety. I think it's great.
Did I say that?
Yeah, I think so. It's in the paper.
Oh, that must have been the issue. The issue's on tap. Hey, I'm a big fan.
I know you are.
That's.
I want to get it out there.
Lieutenant Director, I'm the wildfire coordinator. I can weigh in a little bit about the AI technology and how it works. This technology was initially developed by Cal Poly and it is used in California. They use it for earthquake detection and quickly found use for getting folks to fires much faster before they become a big fire. And so how the systems work is you can kind of make a geographical area. Those cameras are hooked to us if the camera detects some sort of a heat, fire, smoke, heat, something like that, it will send a group of people, so command staff, me, a text message, it says to check the camera. And we can click on it, it takes us to that camera and we can actually verify before anybody even goes, if it's smoke report, if it's a dust column. It's a better way to use resources, much faster way.
So, do you I'm sorry, Matt, so I'm assuming we're geofencing different aspects of different areas?
Yep.
And not just the whole area itself?
Yeah.
So
not
that way
just-
you've got to segregate it out?
Yeah, we can segregate it, just the cameras.
Yes, you said AI, you got the IT guy here, son.
I mean,
And my objective would be not to send him a text, but to get it to the real-time information
Right.
center that's monitored.
That makes sense.
and it could go to our dispatch centers and they can pull it up on their screens to be able to connect.
He may be sleeping, he may be a heavy sleeper, and he won't get his text.
Fair enough.
All right.
Anything on duty 365. Two more items for me. I just want to remind everybody, our annual badge pinning and promotional ceremony, we are going to hold it at the Foley building, so that's kind of exciting. We're going to try that. That is on January 22nd, so that's all promotions. Even our new hires will get their official badge pinning by their loved one at that event, and they'll take their oath of office for the LFRA. That's 5:30 at the Foley building. And last item for me is North Carter Lake. This is information only. North Carter Lake has been in our service area even before the inclusion elections, but Matt or Lieutenant Dedecker brought this to our attention. They have a roster of folks who basically are on call if there is a fire. So it's kind of a phone down effect. And then they have a fire apparatus or a water truck, the equivalent of a brush truck up there. Now, that might seem, hey, they're ahead of the game. It can be very problematic if not controlled well. It can be an issue for us from a response perspective. Chief Smith shared this with me years ago. We had a fatal response up there and that unit was there and kind of clogged the access for us. So we are intending to reach out to them, do a town hall, really tell them what we do, what we're all about, and really get a better understanding and give them direction on those type of activities. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention. That is the level of concern of wildfire risk in our community. Not only in North Lake, we certainly have it up in Storm, we certainly have it in Pinewood, but we'll share more as we learn more about that. Last item there was the meaningful sentence. I already addressed that. Joint board city council meeting. This is very much in line, Director Sampson, with what you're talking about. I would love to bring the full rural board and city council, not just the city councilors that are represented here, a larger council together for a workshop. I think it would be very educational and productive. So you were ahead of the curve there. So with that, Chief Ward. Which, I'm sorry. Oh, here's real quickly. Sorry, the pictures aren't bigger, but picture on the left was what we were originally dealing with. We had multiple fires at this. It was a mobile home at one point. Picture on the right is basically a lot of the debris that was left behind. Imagine this being your neighbor. Okay, and I'm not speaking disparagingly of a residence, but this is what neighbors were looking out to. So the pictures on the far right are what city staff and contractors in conjunction with the LFRA Community Safety Division have produced. So very positive outcome, but I harp on the fact we started this project in December of 2022.
And if I can, Chief,
Was that a
you
bad
bet. Just because I think it's important on situations like that. We also had another location in town. It was a hotel that we shut down. And we appreciate, fire's assistance in that because in the county too, we called everybody in, but it was one that was out there for a long time. And part of it was if we weren't like getting aggressive about that because there's always the pushback, right? But we now are obviously by getting the site cleaned up, by going forward and making and insisting, and we closed down that hotel for now too. And so we'll continue on that path. There's a few other properties out there, but you will probably at some point get calls on all of this as we move forward, because when we become aggressive with something that's been ignored for a while, it is what it is. But we are, and I appreciate all the efforts on all sides because that's horrific.
Hey, Chief, so, City manager, I want to thank you for your support and for city attorney's office, because I mean, we could get so far in the past and then, and it wouldn't go any further. And I mean, that was pivotal. There's been multiple departments working on this for both of those for a long time. So without your guys' backing, it wouldn't happen. So this is, I mean, it's a win for everybody. I just want you to know how much we appreciate that.
It is.
Well done.
All right, some training over the last month or so. We did night live fire training. Anytime we do a large training evolution like this, where we're burning in the burn building, large vehicle extrication training, it's always LFRA and Berthoud we train together, and that's to multiply our workforce. So they have training staff and we have training staff, so we come together and do these larger evolutions together. And then it adds 2 more companies in the rotation of being able to rotate crews to the training center and then still maintain coverage around our district and their district. So that was with Berthoud Fire for those burns.
Tell Mitchell, that is one of the coolest pictures.
One of them is Mitchell's photo and the other one is Ian's photo, and I don't remember which is which, but yeah.
Tell them both.
They're
The
both-
one on the left is
They're
awesome.
both good at what they do.
The door.
This one was regional training. Every year, our crews come together and do live fire training with all of our regional partners. And we try to carve out time at the end of the year, each year, for just the battalion chiefs and acting battalion chiefs to come together to do command level training. So it's not just the crews that are training together, our command staffs are working together. When we have a significant incident, if it's our battalion chief that gets there first, generally there's another chief officer that gets in the vehicle with them that helps them with that incident command. And that may not be another Loveland chief. It may be a chief from Greeley or a chief from Windsor. And so we got to be able to work together in the command post. So every year in the fall, we concentrate on that training. Health and wellness. Well, since the Science to the Station conference that we went to, we've kind of got an idea, I think, of where we need to take the health and wellness program to our next step with that. Within health and wellness, we have the safety committee. They deal with some safety policies. They review our accidents, some work comp type stuff, and try and work on proactive measures there. We have our wellness fitness trainers that if somebody needs some help in getting into shape, back into shape, passing their frontline health, just want a workout program, they help on that side. And then we have our peer support, which is led by Dr. Richards, and they work on our behavioral health, mental health side of it. So within the program, there's really 3 competing interests. And that all flows up to the executive staff, and we try and figure out what's important and what we want to move forward. So we're going to put a layer in between there, and it's the focus group. And so we're going to have a representative from each of those 3 areas of the program, plus some other people in the organization that have expressed interest, both on the sworn and non-sworn side. We have one of our volunteer firefighters that's interested. So we're going to put this group together, and they're kind of going to be the focus group, steering group. We haven't even got a name for it yet that helps the executive staff with, we've got all these things coming at us. What is the highest priorities from health and wellness and safety that we want to try and push forward maybe for the next budget cycle? Or if we need help, we want to look at the next level of cardiac testing for our firefighters. We can't do all the research, and we have this group that can help us with. South Metro's got a program, PFA's got a program. Let's look at both and decide, does one of them fit for us, or do we need to look at something else? And so that group is just coming together. Chief Smith and I got to make a few selections for that, but we have interest and we want to get it up and running by the first of the year. The ladder truck. So for our new board members, early September, our crew from Station 6 was responding to a structure fire in the ladder truck. Thankfully, they were in their backup ladder truck. that day instead of the front line. But it was 4:30 or so in the morning. They were responding to a structure fire down by the golf course, actually in Berthoud's district. A car ran the red light at First and Cleveland, and we had an accident with the ladder truck. And it ended up, the ladder truck was basically totaled. Fortunately, we have a ladder truck on order because it was due for replacement. We ordered it 3 years ago. And it's gonna be done the end of next year. That's kind of how long it's taking to get fire apparatus right now. But we've got a gap from early September until the end of next year where we didn't have a backup ladder truck, and that's not a good situation to be in. The ladder truck that's frontline goes in for service, has repairs, and so we need that backup ladder truck. We were fortunate that Berthoud Fire, they had one ladder truck that was rarely used, and it was a 2000 model, so it's 25, 26 years old, but they were had it on the market to sell it. So we were able to buy it, and this picture is we changed some of the striping. They had yellow striping with the white. We took the yellow off, put our blue striping on it, put our logo on it, and leveled up on the ladder board to make it somewhat look like ours, other than it's got a white top. It's not supposed to have a white top because fire engines, fire trucks are supposed to be all red. But so you'll see one with a white top on it.
That's
So,
what happens when you're a town,
it's-
not a city.
That's
Yeah.
right.
It's getting us by till the end of next year, and then when the new ladder truck gets here, we have a couple options with this one to turn around and sell it. Another option that we've been talking about is all of our newer engineers, they have to get certified in operating an aerial ladder truck, which puts a lot of hours and wear and tear on our ladder trucks, of the drive time and stuff that they have to do to meet that certification requirement, that we may be able to hang on to this for a while and have a lot of that training done on this truck, at least a portion of it, and might reduce some of the wear and tear on one. So we have some options with it, but it's in service. They've been in it the last 3 weeks. Frontline, because the tower, our main truck, has been in the shop for some significant repairs.
So,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Chief.
so for example, the new ladder truck's costing $2.2 million. This cost us $115,000. So, but it's 25 years old, okay, so the technology's not there and so forth. But to Chief Ward's point, if we don't keep it, we've talked to somebody about selling it. We've said 114,000 is acceptable for us.
My question was, and this is for the new directors, Chief Ward, could you tell us what we're paying for the new ladder truck and what one cost 10, 15 years ago? Please?
Yeah. So Tower 46, which is our frontline truck that we have now, we bought it in 2014, ordered it in 13, got it in 14, and it was 900,000. And we just paid 1.9 for the one we ordered 3 years ago to be here next year. It's great. So huge cost increase over the last 2
And
years.
triple the time period you get it.
Right, yeah, right. And that's starting to come down a little bit, but it's most, if we order an engine now, we're still probably looking at 2 years. But it's starting to come down. And I could give you a whole presentation on that at some point, but.
You talk fire trucks with this guy. Yeah.
It's just astounding.
It's crazy. This one, the background on this for our new board members, this is out at Fire Station 7, by the Big Thompson Elementary School. So when we built that station and we built Station 10, part of the process on the city side is the Visual Arts Commission gets pieces of that construction funds for art. We didn't know that was happening because both of these stations were built in the rural district. And then when we got a different finance manager, where did these funds go, and started looking into it? Well, they went to visual arts. So we came back to this board and had a discussion. Do we ask for that money back? Because technically these stations, it doesn't apply because these are built in the rural district and they were funded by the LFRA, not the city. But this board said the funds are already there. Let's support the arts. And we'll move forward with it. So this is Station 7's. It's just about finished. That most people look at that and say, what is that big ugly machine looking thing that's in the center? That is a siren that used to sit on the Station 1 that was a few blocks west of here. And that siren, they would activate that to alert the volunteers that lived in town that there was a fire call. Because there was no pagers or cell phones or anything, so that's how they knew there was a call. When that station was torn down, when this one was built, that siren made its way up to the Big Thompson Canyon and was used up there for a while. The volunteers up there recovered it out of the 2013 flood debris. And it's been sitting in the landscape at the new Station 7. The station we lost in the 2013 flood in Cedar Cove was Station 7. So now we have a new Station 7 that was built by the Big Thompson Elementary. So it's been sitting there in the landscaping, but nobody really knew, much about it or what it was. So now we have this, it's been built into the artwork. It's on that stand. We have a plaque coming that's going to talk about the history of the siren. And then we have a wildland firefighter, structure firefighter, and a swift water rescuer on those stones back there to really represent the type of incidents that station responds to.
And we're gonna dedicate that.
Yeah. In May, when we do our community wildfire education day at Station 7, so we'll have citizens in the community and stuff out there. We want to have the artists there and actually dedicate it then. So
I'm going out there this weekend to get a picture with that thing. That's
yeah,
cool.
it's pretty cool. It turned out
That's the
well.
station I met you at to go to the Alexander, right? Station 7.
Correct.
Veterans Day Parade, we had a good turnout for that. I think we had four vehicles and a fire SUV, 4 fire engines, I should say, and a fire SUV in the Veterans Day Parade. So good turnout from LFRA.
They were all red.
They were all red. Some of this came from January from our community education and engagement specialist. So we went out and packed bags for the kids pack. We went up against the staff at Subaru and they believe they won, but we really know the truth. We packed a few of theirs when we got done with ours. So we know the truth.
Real quickly on this Kids Pack reached out to us. This used to be a competition between the school district and Subaru. Subaru no longer wanted to compete against the school district. I don't know what that relationship is, but first on deck was LFRA. So this is something we'll do annually. We were selected from, however many other participants there are. So pretty cool to support Kids Pack.
I think my last one, again from January, she did another safe sitter class out at Station 10. Those have been very successful. She's done several of those throughout the year. And then on the right, the Festival of Lights that was downtown, Captain Lyons had the Loveland Fire Exhibit 1969 Mack engine down there. I think next year he said he's gonna work on Christmas lights and stuff on it. Didn't know what to expect this year. We've always had an on-duty engine there, so it didn't have Christmas decorations because they may have to go on a call. But I think he's gonna do it better next year. This is plan.
Just one slide for you guys. We had a fire on Sunday, which I'll show in the next board packet with you guys. But this one was back at the beginning of November up by Mariana Butte Golf Course. Fire in the basement from a furnace and actually hit the water line. So the water line pretty much saved the day. It didn't save the house. Probably could have been a lot worse than it was, but yeah, small fire.
We advocate engineered sprinklers as opposed to using your water lines. All right. 4 o'clock.
Okay, you're done. Okay. I don't see any need for a executive session. That takes us to other business for board consideration. Anybody else have any other business? I have one piece of it. Go ahead, Paul.
I do if I could. Just a little bit of information about the district. Sometimes we're remiss about talking about what we're doing on the district side. There was 2 things that have occurred in the last month and a half. And one of them was, we've used Chief and his staff and contracted with them to do our district management function. And we kind of felt like the lines were getting blurred. We didn't want chief being in a position where there's, conflict of interest between the city and so forth. And so the district decided to look at hiring a management company. So we came to an agreement with that. They are called, Public Alliance, and they seem like great people. And I'd like to thank Chief and his staff for helping us through the last couple of years of getting this done. Christie's been awesome. Thank you, Christie, for always keeping us in line. So that's number one. Number two, one of the things that you may have heard us talk about was a temporary mill reduction. So the district, our reserves were out of control. They're not our funds. They're the people's funds we're responsible for. So as an organization, what we decided to do was to do a temporary mill reduction to 8%. And the gist of that is Mrs. Jones, who has a $480,000 home, she'll get $138 reduction in what she's paying for fire services through the district. Which, some people poo-poo that's nothing. Well, that may pay for a heating bill for a month, may pay for a medicine for a month. To me, it's a big deal. So we came up with an agreement on that. That's something that you'll hear a little bit more about. But as a district, we're pretty proud of that. I think giving money back to people when we don't need it necessarily is fine. One of the comments I asked our district financial advisor, out of the 38 districts that he manages as an accountant, we're the healthiest district. And even with this, we're more than 100% of our reserves. So this will not affect our ability to contribute to the department as going forward. In fact, I asked him, I said, if we have $1 million event that we don't see, would we be able to help out in those situations? He goes, absolutely. So we're still financially solid. We can do both and still participate quite well. So those are the two things that are big deals.
I could piggyback on that, and it's important to us as a rural board that we have some discretionary funds so we can help out. We already talked about, we recently gave an additional ballpark figure, $225,000, so that we could pay the firefighters a better cost of living raise this year. And earlier this year, we contributed ballpark figure 450 towards wildfire mitigation. I think over the course of the last 3 years, we're pushing a neighborhood of $6 to $7 million. So again, we're trying to be good partners. We're not trying to be stingy, and balancing that with fulfilling our fiduciary relationship to the voters in the rural district. We're not trying to be stingy with the money and not support the authority. We're just trying to do the right thing for everybody. Any other?
If I can, Chief, I appreciate, and it was definitely an honor to be at the Guardian Awards. Really enjoyed it. Love seeing the teams in there doing that, and the aspect of you all taking care of your own as well as taking care of us hit heavy. Two, it's just an honor to be a part of this board. I'm glad I'm here.
We're glad you're here too.
I'm gonna piggyback on what you said.
Thank you.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I agree. I am as well.
We're excited to have both of you.
Thank you.
Having said that, our IGA calls for us to have a election for board officers anytime we seat a new board. So we do have 2 board members, and Emily, if you're still on there, I mean, I'm guessing we should do this now, just like they do at city council when they sit everybody. That's when they have their elections for who's doing what boards are on, or we can put it off till next month. Whatever you
I would do it
recommend.
in January so that it can be noticed on the agenda, but you're right, Jeff, that should be probably the first business item on the agenda in January.
Okay, so be thinking about who you want as chairperson, vice chairperson. Do we have a secretary treasurer? I don't remember.
We have.
Anyway, okay, just those 2 positions.
Yep, just those 2. Christy serves as the secretary.
Very good, thank you.
I won't predispose on this, but I like the positions where they're.
You say you're volunteering to be chairman? I'm sorry.
No.
Okay, if there's no further business, thank you again. Welcome to our newest members. This is great. I'm looking forward to a bright, rosy future with the fire authority, and thank you.
Thank you for the cards too. Haven't opened it up, but thank you.
Yeah. With that, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, happy Festivus. If I've left anything out, I apologize. We'll see y'all next year.
If there's a
Thank
check
you,
in it,
everyone.